The guy played the computer game carefully and for a long time, striving to be the best. After 3 days of continuous play, he finally took the top spot in the rankings. Going outside, the young man reflected on the boring school days and wished that reality was like a game where you could constantly get stronger. Looking at his phone, he realized that he had reached the top of the rankings, but now he had nothing to play again, and it was lesson time. Thinking, the guy did not notice how he found himself in the middle of the road, where he was hit to death by a car. But he did not care, because he was already tired of the boring world. A rebirth took place, and he became the son of the Lingzun family, which was joyfully announced by his new father as he lifted the infant in his arms. The man lifted the newborn baby into his arms, rejoicing at the arrival of his long-awaited son. As he put the baby down, the father noticed the child's stillness and became alarmed, thinking something was wrong with the baby. He pinched the baby's cheek, and at that moment, the reborn soul of the protagonist entered him. The baby cried out loudly, "Wah!" which delighted and reassured the new father. The overjoyed father tossed his son upward, confident that he couldn't be in trouble. Floating in the air, the child tried to comprehend the situation, remembering only the collision with the truck. He wondered if he had really been reborn and why he was now flying into the unknown. As he fell, he felt a familiar sensation and was assured of his rebirth in another world. Realizing he couldn't just die, he realized his father had saved him by jumping up and catching him on the fly. The kid smiled with relief, realizing that this world wasn't as boring as the old one. 8 years later, his name was Ji Jin, but the memories of his past life in the modern world were still with him. He was now living in a world of spiritual power and cultivation so different from the previous reality. Since birth, he lived with his parents in the countryside, thinking of them as ordinary people. The daily routine consisted of practicing and learning new techniques, which was far more exciting than a simple game. Cultivation allowed one to become stronger, and there was nothing more exciting for a young man. In their world, cultivation was divided into 10 ranks, and the boy's mother, watching his training, was satisfied with his talent as a cultivator. Knowing his mother's achievements, Zijin calculated that it would take 80 years to reach rank 10 through normal means. Getting frustrated, he decided to look for unconventional strengthening methods to shorten his cultivation time. Zijin's parents followed the old man, saying that their 16-year-old son could already enroll in his school. They didn't mind, but they thought he was too strong for a regular school. The old lady took offense, saying they were underestimating her school, which has many talented students. The father, smiling embarrassedly, admitted that they didn't know the true limits of their child's strength. All the while, Saijin was creating his weapon, the most accurate shotgun in the modern world. The guy found a blacksmith who added explosives, flint and thunderstone to the gun for electromagnetic acceleration, as well as embedding spiritual power into the bullets. This weapon was supposed to be the beginning of a new era in this world, and just at that moment, a huge monster ran out at the young man. Deciding to test the gun, the guy pulled the trigger 3 times, but the monster was only left with 3 small wounds on the side. Realizing that more flint and thunderstone were needed to defeat such a powerful beast, he did not fall down. The young man decided to use a homemade grenade made of flint. Pulling the pin with his teeth, he threw it directly into the monster's mouth. The grenade explosion caught the attention of his parents and a teacher walking nearby in the woods. They rushed to the scene and saw the boy next to the defeated monster. Everyone froze in shock, not expecting such an admirable result from young Zijin. The teacher said that although Zijin had killed the monster, he was still at the level of a rank 3 spiritual master, and it was very dangerous to fight a level 5 monster. He added that such a monster could only be defeated by a spiritual commander. Without finishing listening, Jin thought that his teacher was praising him, without understanding the true meaning of the words. The old man invited the young man to study in his school, where the boy will learn common sense, because following his parents, he may lose it even more. He also added that he would hide the student's identity to prevent a commotion among the other students, which caused the boy to wonder and ask about the need for this. The teacher explained that his father and mother were rank 10 spiritual deities, and Zijin was their son. The boy shrieked in surprise and anger, not understanding how those two could be spiritual deities. The parents were embarrassed that their son called them spiritual deities, and the teacher's reaction was angry, for he did not understand how it was possible that he could not even talk to his son about it. Spiritual deity is a level reached at the pinnacle of cultivation, and in the entire world, only a few people have accomplished this. The Royal Training Academy that Zijin was invited to was the finest school on the continent, and was famous for training outstanding cultivators. The boy remembered that his parents had also once attended this prestigious academy. The mother could not hold back her tears as she saw her grown-up son off, and the father consoled her, promising to continue the honeymoon after her son's departure. Shijin hurriedly walked away from his parents' admonishment, but he was followed by shouts about the exam and his superiority. The guy didn't like it and angrily shouted for them to stop bullying, because there were many other students in the schoolyard who heard it. Hearing the shouting, one of the guys decided to play a joke on Zijin by asking since when children were brought to the Royal Academy exams by their parents. The disciples sympathized with the newcomer, noticing the approach of a bully from the Qin family, known for his antics, relying on his father's status as an army officer. Remaining unfazed, Zijin walked past, concentrating on finding the examination room. The arrogant bully loudly called out to Zijin, not expecting that his bold words would simply be ignored. The newcomer turned around calmly, skillfully pretending not to hear the rude reference to him. The young master from the Qin family growled that he would teach him how to listen, and began to create a fireball. Shijin smiled in surprise, seeing the primitiveness of the magic attack being prepared with slight disdain. The arrogant opponent thought that the newcomer was afraid of his supposedly famous fire martial art. In fact, Zijin just remembered how easy it was to learn this kind of simple magic back in his early childhood. He instantly sensed the striking weakness of his opponent's spiritual power, barely reaching the level of an ordinary person. Taking a deep breath, the protagonist deftly exhaled a stream of cold air, instantly extinguishing the boastful fireball. The completely stunned young man from the Qin family stiffened in confusion, unable to understand why his praised magic didn't work. Shijin condescendingly explained that he had simply temporarily removed the oxygen around the hapless opponent's hand. The opponent perplexedly asked about oxygen, and Zijin, realizing the gaffe, deftly dodged the explanation. Enraged by the humiliation, the young master of the Qin family fiercely lunged at Zijin with the intention of attacking physically. Nonchalantly turning around, the protagonist once again used his technique, exhaling cold air directly into the attacker's face. The bully suddenly felt his breath catch, as if an invisible hand was squeezing his throat. He collapsed to the ground, gulping for air with his mouth, and Zijin was surprised at the strength of his skill, the first time he had used it on a human. The young man was joined by a girl who praised him for his action because she didn't know what to do when she first met this bully. Mujilan introduced herself politely, and Zijin, remembering his previous awkwardness with girls, embarrassedly responded to the greeting. The companion noted Zijin's impressive strength with sincere admiration, to which the latter modestly replied, downplaying his abilities. Together they headed to the hall where the students were to channel their energy into special stones that measured their level of power. Shijin carefully observed the others, noting that most had reached the spiritual master level, even though they were just ordinary guys. Mujilan walked up to the stone, and her incredible power stunned not only Zijin, but everyone present. It turned out that she was a princess of a neighboring country, who had already reached the 4th rank of cultivation. Walking to the stone, Zijin met the returning princess and sincerely praised her impressive result. Now it's my turn, the young man thought, channeling all of his spiritual power into the measuring artifact. Suddenly, the stone cracked and shards shattered, injuring Zijin, who hurriedly withdrew his energy. After stopping the flow of power, the stone only showed a 2nd rank, causing the surrounding people to be bewildered. Someone present scornfully remarked that 2nd-ranked people had no place in this testing. Only Mujilan, who was standing nearby, realized the uniqueness of the situation. No one had broken the measuring stone before. Zijin froze by the destroyed artifact, reflecting on his failure in containing the force. The entrance exam continued in the backyard of the academy, where all the incoming students had gathered. Teachers announced the start of the hands-on portion, drawing students' attention to the new rules. Participants had to score 50 points in 2 hours by destroying demons of different ranks. It was allowed to hunt creatures up to rank 4, avoiding dangerous monsters of level 5. As the challenge began, everyone rushed into the forest in search of the demons, eager to show off their abilities. Relying on his heightened senses, Zijin determined the direction from where the smell of monsters was coming from. A student ran nearby, chasing the cute bunny and begging him not to run away. Suddenly, something flew past in lightning speed and struck the rabbit before the hapless hunter caught up with it. It turned out that it was Zijin, sitting in a tree, who had aptly shot down the target, apologizing to the upset disciple. The enraged student recognized the 2nd-ranked rookie as the booty snatcher and resented his insolence. Shijin joked about the rules of the games, but his opponent grabbed his shoulder and threatened revenge for insulting the Yin family. An unexpected stranger intervened, reminding him of the prohibition against mentioning titles in the academy. The savior turned out to be Lin Yun, the eldest son of the Lin clan, who had already reached the 4th rank and was considered a genius. The attacker, realizing the possible punishment for breaking the rules, decided to quickly flee the scene of the conflict. As he ran away, he continued to shout threats at Ziejin, promising violent revenge the next time they met. Left alone, Ziejin thanked Lin Yun, who pointed out that many people were afraid to socialize with him. The eldest son of the Lin clan offered to fight alongside the fellow, extending his hand for a handshake. Shijin happily agreed, secretly planning to explore the abilities of a fourth-ranked cultivator. At this time, the teachers in the academy were watching the map, showing the movements of the students during the exam. Most of the participants possessed rank 3 strength. Only a few stood out with rank 4 strength. Teachers realized that rank 4 assignments are difficult to complete alone and require teamwork. Walking through the forest, Lin said that many candidates were scions of noble families who were facing real danger for the first time. "We have the perfect plan. You on defense, I attack," Yun started to say, but suddenly became wary when he heard strange sounds. They were surrounded by two-headed fourth-rank demon dogs, ready to kill the students at that hour. Realizing the responsibility, Lin Yun decided to deal with the threat quickly, protecting the frightened Jie Jin, who had frozen. However, the protagonist was not frozen in place from fear. He in wonder at the two-headed dogs and pondered the reasons for their unusual appearance. Lin Yun used magic, creating sharp ice crystals and aiming them at the nearest monster. Standing over the defeated demon, the savior thought it would have been difficult to deal with this threat alone. When he turned back to Zijin, he froze in shock. His partner had already dispersed all the other wolves. Observing the map, the teachers noticed that some students had already encountered a rank 4 demon. Suddenly, they saw the demons disappear, leaving the two students alone, and they realized that this was the work of the young master of the Lin clan. For with his strength, a level 5 demon could be defeated. The second mentor explained. A top-ranked demon was specifically placed to assess the disciple's ability to evade threats. His counterpart noted that the death of the main monster would stop all fighting and end the trial early. The old man, listening to the conversations, realized that this was Jie Jin's doing, and mentally asked him not to cause trouble. Lin, realizing the unusual nature of his partner, warned him about the rank 5 demonic beast ahead. Sijin, feigning worry, said that he couldn't face such a strong opponent. Thinking about it, Yun suggested that there might be an inexperienced disciple ahead who needed protection. Following the map, the teachers wondered why any of the students were heading toward a dangerous monster. Climbing up the tree, Mujilan carefully watched the slumbering top-ranked beast. The girl decided that killing this monster would guarantee her admission to the academy. Mujilan attacked the demon with a powerful magic strike, putting all her strength into it. However, the monster didn't even flinch, making the girl doubt her abilities. The sounds of battle and sudden gusts of wind made Lin Yun and Zijin wary. Realizing the threat from the awakened rank 5 demon, Lin insisted on immediately retreating. Mujilan continued to attack, daring to make a desperate leap towards the demon. A worthy opponent? Normal methods won't work. We'll have to use that technique, she thought. Before she could complete the thought, the girl found herself knocked down by a monster ready to destroy everyone around her. Thrown back by the blow, the girl flew upward, coughing and realizing her powerlessness in the face of imminent doom. The unexpected surprise was the appearance of Jie Jin, who caught Mujilan before she hit the ground. After making sure that the rescued person was safe, the young man ordered everyone to urgently leave the dangerous area. Xie Qin noted a sense of déjà vu, comparing the monster to the creature living not far from his home. The partner demanded action, marveling at Jie Jin's familiarity with high-ranked demons. The young man judiciously pointed out the dangers of fighting a rank 5 creature, suggesting that they retreat. Lin recalled the easy victory over the rank 4 dogs, accusing Zijin of hiding his true strength. Sighing, Zijin took out a grenade, activated it, and threw it towards the demon. With a lightning-fast reaction, he forced everyone to lie down, shielding them from the massive explosion that followed. The shocked companions hardly realized the fact that a 5th-rank demon had died. The teachers watched perplexed as the defeated monster's mark on the map disappeared. The old mentor expressed his dissatisfaction with yet another problem created by Zijin and Lin Yun. Another group of disciples, preparing to fight the demon rabbit, were surprised by the sudden flight of those. The unprecedented killing of a top-ranked demon in an exam, for the first time in 300 years, threatened to end the test prematurely. In order not to lose students, the old man suggested that all candidates be accepted this year. After the exams, the Royal Academy held an orientation for new students. The girl persistently questioned Zijin about his abilities, while Lin tried to restrain her. Yun stood up for his friend, reminding him that everyone has a past they don't want to talk about. Headmaster Li Xian came up to the stage to congratulate the new students. He warned that enrollment was just the beginning and one should not relax. The principal emphasized that only strength is valued in the school, and the weak will be ruthlessly weeded out. He mentioned that the academy has produced many spiritual masters, and most of the teachers are of high rank. Students and faculty at the academy participated in the recent war to help bring peace. Li Xian said that their strength supports the stability and prosperity of the continent. Si Jin set himself the goal of working hard to quickly reach the rank of spiritual emperor. The guys behind heard his words and pointed out that the school was full of geniuses, but only a few reached rank 8. Lin Yun intervened in the conversation, saying that if this sounded from Zi Jin, he probably wasn't joking. The principal asked the student who had killed a rank 5 demon to come up on stage. The young man shushed the two guys who didn't believe in his strength and proudly walked onto the stage. Lin pointed his finger at the main character, confirming that he was the one who had killed the powerful demon. The guy's face changed and could only utter a surprised expression. What? Jin walked up to the stage, stood beside the principal, coughed, and began to choose words for his speech. The hero couldn't believe that he used to be afraid to answer in class, and now he was speaking in front of everyone. He said that now they were classmates and should be friends and help each other develop. The students started yelling that he was a rank 2 weakling and shouldn't consider himself cool. Upset by the reaction, the young man depressingly began to walk down the stage, thinking he was out of luck at school. Li Shen stopped him and advised him not to stand out, or else there would be trouble every day. The kid confidently said that no one could beat him anyway, and that was what worried the principal. The old man advised not to use such tricks in front of everyone, so as not to attract unnecessary attention. The next day, the teacher warned that there would be a test in the spiritual arts class, with attacking the target with the best techniques. The students immediately began to summon magic at the same time, filling the air with energy and glowing symbols. Mu Jilin used arrow breathing, a technique that compresses air into the shape of an arrow and secures it with spiritual pressure. When the arrow reached its target, the shape disappeared, the compressed air exploding and shattering the statue to pieces. The girl watched proudly as everyone around her admired her and asked her to teach the technique. Xijin announced his turn as he headed towards the starting position, and someone in the crowd mockingly inquired about the abilities of a second-ranked weakling. The young man decided to be less active and just repeat after the previous student, using the arrow breath at 30%. The arrow fired by Zijin hit the target, leaving only a small crack, causing the spectators to be disappointed. Jin, chuckling to himself, recognized the girl's superiority in using the technique. Jilin was seething with anger after realizing that the newcomer had instantly copied her unique skill. This. Oh shit, Jin muttered, realizing that he had accidentally unleashed his potential. The class ended and the guy decided to leave, thinking that learning spiritual arts in such a chaotic environment was a bad idea. A girl suddenly appeared behind the pillar, making Jin flinch and contemplate running away. Attempting to run away but quickly tiring, he inquired as to the reason for her persistent pursuit. The girl insisted on explaining his unexpected abilities demonstrated in class. The young man offered to discuss it tomorrow, citing important matters. But she couldn't see what could be more important. Turns out there's a sale on Taobao where all the essentials are 10 wen each. The princess decided to go to the market with him, squeezing through the crowd, and the guy was perplexed as to why she was at a poor man's sale. The girl said that although she was a princess, her country was no richer than this one, so she asked to be treated like an ordinary girl. A sudden strong jolt in the crowd sent the confused girl straight into the arms of the surprised Zi Jin. She involuntarily pressed her breasts against him, causing the young man to feel pleasant excitement and a rapid heartbeat. Closing his eyes, Jin enjoyed the unexpected closeness, trying to hide his embarrassment. The embarrassed girl apologized for the collision, trying to pull away, but Jin, hiding his excitement, assured her it was fine. Finally, a salesman appeared in front of them, and they didn't hold back and started ordering everything. The princess took a soft sheep that reminded her of her homeland, where there are many nomads with endless pastures. She described the beauty of the night sky, the reflection of the moon in the lakes, and the light wind swaying the grass on the steppe. Watching the princess holding the toy, Zijin asked if she missed home, but the girl couldn't answer. After giving the sheep to the vendor, she asked for a cultivation talisman, surprising her companion. The young man asked why she didn't buy everything she needed for training. The princess explained that the money was earned by people's hard work, so she could not squander it until she earned it herself. Like a true gentleman, the guy took all the purchases and carried them himself, feeling pathetic shopping with his non-existent girlfriend. Walking through the woods, the girl noticed 2 stumps and offered to rest. The young man happily agreed, threw his purchases on the ground, and asked why the princess didn't want to become stronger, surprising her with the question. The princess explained that her small country depends on the support of strong powers, realizing her role as a political tool through a potential marriage. The girl expressed her hope of being able to protect her nation by becoming a spiritual deity. She admitted that Zijin's words about reaching the highest rank inspired her despite the seeming impossibility. Shijin suddenly turned away from the girl and started rummaging through the purchases looking for something. He pulled out a toy sheep, held it out to the princess, and suggested that they train together in the future. The girl, taking the toy, could not hold back her tears, touched by this unexpected gesture. To hide her emotions, she leaned against Zijin, surprising him with this sudden display of feelings. Quickly gathering her thoughts, the princess jumped up and suggested that they start training together immediately with a duel. The boy thought he was being recognized for the first time, but quickly pushed those thoughts away, suggesting that he put the conversation on hold. Mujilan insisted on an immediate fight, saying that she had already notified the academy administration. The faculty member designated as the observer reluctantly arrived at the scene of the meeting between the two freshmen. Seeing the participants, the teacher became interested, remembering their success in the entrance exams. The guy started to panic and asked the teacher if he could withdraw from the fight. The mentor replied that the rules did not forbid it, but frequent refusals and losing duels between arrogant students was considered a disgrace. He added that this was exactly what an outsider was for, and Zijin started laughing. The teacher expressed curiosity to watch their duel, declining the student's request and warning that his opponent might finish him off. Shijin tried to dissuade the girl, citing his low rank, but she only laughed at his excuses. The girl rhetorically asked if it was nonsense, noting his talent and desire, and wanted to fight him at full strength. Listening to the conversation, the guy noticed the ever-increasing wind. The teacher saw his incomprehension and confirmed the speculation, for the girl could indeed use the element of wind. He explained that spiritual energy affects natural abilities, occurring more often in the form of fire, less often in the form of lightning and ice, and wind has the weakest damage. If a girl suddenly attacks a level 5 foul beast with thick skin, only a bruise will be left afterward. However, the force of the wind is more than enough to mess up a person's body, and the guy felt the wind travel down his arm, leaving a severe cut. Shijin grabbed his wound, not realizing when the princess had time to do this. The teacher noted that despite the low damage, wind attacks are difficult to predict. He added that due to underestimation of this element, the tactics for dealing with it are poorly developed. Apparently, the princess already understood exactly how to fight using this element. The young man created a shield in an attempt to protect himself from the attacking wind. But the air was dense and fast when attacking. It was hard to see. Shijin realized that he didn't have time to use defensive techniques against his opponent's swift attacks. The girl pondered mysteriously that victory was hers, and there was no way her opponent could win no matter what he did. Seeing Zijin turn to flee, Mujilan suspected that he would resort to trickery again, remembering the strange item he had used against a rank 5 demon. The student, remembering his promise to the principal, decided not to use unusual techniques and ran towards the girl. Mujilan, noticing Zijin's approach, used the dragon cyclone technique, creating a huge vortex. The young man froze abruptly before this phenomenon, not realizing its nature and magnitude. The teacher wondered how the princess was able to use a rank 6 technique on such a scale with only a rank 4. It turned out that the girl was skillfully manipulating the wind, creating only the visual effect of a powerful technique. Mentor said it was that simple, and for diversion, then threw a pebble right into the center of the vortex. Right in front of the stunned young man, something inexplicable and frightening began to happen in the center of the vortex. Shijin drew his sword and easily deflected the blow, impressing the teacher with his swordsmanship. The teacher couldn't believe his eyes that the student had used his sword to repel the attack, and didn't regret the decision to be an observer of the entertaining battle. Next, the mentor saw the girl's excellent use of the wind element and the guy's sword skills. Her opponent angrily asked if her opponent thought to confront her using only a sword and underestimating her. Shijin confidently declared that he had figured out Mujilan's tactics and would be able to stop any number of her strikes with a single sword, challenging her to come up with something new. And so it was. The young man fought perfectly with his sword against the element of wind, moving instinctively and ahead of his consciousness. The teacher noticed that after the student picked up the sword, his indecision disappeared, and the teacher could not understand how he had learned to control the weapon in such a way. Such excellent swordsmanship was a credit to the boy's father, who taught him the basics of swordsmanship from infancy. Shijin was happy about it, after all. A real man should be able to wield a sword, and the longer he was in this world, the more he liked it. My father fascinatingly told me that the sword is an extension of the hand, but they are not exactly alike, as weapons have blades for chopping, cutting, stabbing, and piercing. To his son's perplexed question about special techniques, the father answered in the negative, emphasizing the importance of practice, which made the boy question his parents' strength and teaching methods. The father tried to cheer up his frustrated son by offering to train together without any special techniques, but the self-confident child decided to develop fencing techniques on his own. When his father said he was about to attack and asked if the boy was ready, he readily agreed. But when Dad accelerated and attacked, there was fear and shock on the boy's face. After the battle, the defeated and tired child sat on the ground. It seemed that his father wanted him dead, for he was covered in scratches. The mother, seeing her exhausted son on the ground, reprimanded her husband for his cruelty. But he explained that he had to be stricter because of the boy's stubbornness during training. Since he was 6 years old and for 10 years, Seijin had practiced fencing in all kinds of bad weather, and he enjoyed it more and more every day. It was his father's lessons that prepared Zijin to withstand Mujilan's wind attacks. The young man said it was his turn and rushed on the offensive with a punch to his opponent. He realized he only had to get closer, and when he was close enough, he jumped up and swung his sword, asking how she would be able to deflect the blow. The princess wasn't confused and immediately used the 4th-ranked arrow of the gods technique. The teacher got a little upset and said that the guy's iron sword wouldn't be able to withstand the princess's blow, so we need to stop them before anyone gets hurt. The student swung his sword, using a rank 1 thunderstrike technique. The teacher froze in place, staring at the fight in surprise, even forgetting about wanting to stop it. The thing was that the young man pointed his sword at the arrow of the gods, and was even able to hold it for a while. Still, he managed to defeat the wind attack at the cost of destroying his own sword. Walking up to the girl, the guy offered a draw, considering the result of the fight impressive. All he got in response was a fist punch to the chin, and he flew slightly off the ground. Falling at his teacher's feet, Seijin heard Mujilan's confirmation of victory. Rising up, Seijin asked Mujilan about her desire to be the best. The girl rebuked him for his inattention, claiming that in a real battle all means are good. Mujilan hurriedly left, unwilling to continue the conversation after the winner was announced. The young man was puzzled by this behavior of Mujilan, but the teacher came over and explained that, according to the custom of the country, a girl of that age must agree to marry a man if she loses to him in a duel. The hero was shocked by the corrupt customs, but the teacher cheered him up and asked him with a smile if he regretted losing, because if he had been more careful, he might have already had a wife. As he left, the mentor said that the princess didn't seem very interested in the guy either, but hastened to remind him that studying was more important than early love. The next morning, Seijin and Mujilan met, and the young man suggested that they go to class together, to which the girl agreed. They talked on the way, and the princess confessed that at first she had thought he had only resorted to odd tricks, not expecting masterful swordsmanship. Classmates were surprisingly discussing the pair, spreading rumors about Ziejin's accidental victory over the evil beasts and his entry into the academy by Blag. Shijin walked past, keeping an unperturbed expression on his face and pretending not to hear the angry gossip. The surprised princess asked how he could walk so calmly and if he really didn't care what anyone said about him. The guy really didn't care since he was used to it, after all. He had always been treated this way in school before, but now, having become stronger than them, he didn't care about their opinions. The girl said that if she didn't know him, she would have thought he looked like Chijang and couldn't resist slapping him, after which they laughed. As they continued on their way, they heard some guy making a girl named Lin Bo bow in greeting. Gauchen accused Lin Bo of not wanting to socialize with them, but the girl parried that he couldn't hurt her at school. The young man assumed that it was their classmate Lin Bo and she was in trouble. Lin Yun, who came up behind the friends, explained that Gao Chen was the eldest son of the Gao family, and the Lin Bo family could be said to be an offshoot of them. After hearing about the oppression of the Lin family due to his swordsmaster father's illness, Seijin decisively intervened and called his friend to join him. Lin Yun was against it because the relationship between aristocrats was very complicated and it would be uncomfortable for him to interfere, but he promised to support if necessary. Mujilan called Lin Yun hypocritical, and Zijin, stretching his arms, resolutely headed out to deal with the offenders. As he approached the group, the hero got everyone's attention, calling for the bullying to stop and reminding them that hurting a girl is a disgrace for a grown guy. Gao Chen arrogantly brushed aside the interference of the second-ranked brat, causing a heated discussion among those present, shocked at the audacity of confronting the eldest son of the Zhao family. Enraged, Gao Chen roughly grabbed Ling Bo's arm, yanking it sharply, and ordered the brat to immediately get away. Seeing such cruel behavior with the girl, Zijin ordered him to take his dirty hands away from her before he broke them. Gao Chen tried to slyly draw Lin Yun into the heated conflict, but the latter categorically refused to participate in the fight. After all, it was not his conflict. One of Gao Chen's aides shouted out to the guy that his protector wouldn't help, and to remember that the students in the academy weren't rednecks like him. Shijin nonchalantly responded to the provocation, inwardly preparing for the imminent attack of Gao's enraged aides. The hero used a rank 1 technique called glaciation, controlling spiritual energy to make the ice thin and smooth that the attackers slipped on. The guy then used the first rank firestream technique, directing the magic at the people lying on the ice. The arrogant opponent loudly scoffed at the seemingly negligible weakness of Jiejin's cunning attack. The hero calmly explained that his true goal was only to gently melt the ice, not to seriously harm his opponents. He noted that water was an excellent conductor, but no one in this world knew the meaning of the word, and looked at the boy in surprise, waiting for an explanation. The resourceful young man spectacularly demonstrated the impressive power of the electroshock technique, instantly shocking all the opponents in the water with a powerful current. Standing over the defeated enemies, Zijin couldn't help but ironically remark that only the simplest kindergarten techniques were enough to completely defeat them. No one could figure out if it was a joke, and if the guy really had rank 2, since he had fallen 5 people using rank 1 and 2 techniques. Gao Chen angrily shouted, "Freak!" and lunged at Lin Yun, accusing him of deliberately sicking this puppy on him to hinder him. Lin Yun replied that it was their squabbles that had nothing to do with him. Lin Yun wryly remarked that Gao Chen, after not receiving a scratch, was making unfounded claims and insulting his friend as if he was looking for trouble. The angry and resentful eldest son of the Gao family walked past the protagonist, pushing him with his shoulder. Shijin, walking over to Lin Bo, inquired about her well-being after the incident. Gao Chen, without going far, told the victim not to think as if she was forever free since she was interceded for this time. Shijin didn't like this treatment and suggested that the offender repeat the fight, noting that he was talking a lot. Lin Bo held up the hero, thanking him once again. After all, they had only met a couple times in class, and he wanted to help her. The girl said that she needed to finish off Gao Chen herself, so she took out her sword and challenged him to a duel. Chen, barely containing his anger, accused both of them of insolence, rebuking Lin Bo for disregarding the family hierarchy and disrespecting his clan. Gao continued that a low-grade family had spawned an equally low-grade family while creating magic with his hand behind his back. Lin Yun saw this in time and shouted to Shejin and Lin Bo to be careful. The eldest son of the Gao family shouted that people like them had no place among the living and pounced on the guy and girl standing in front. Lin Yun said that things were bad because this family uses unusual fire in their techniques, which is stronger than normal fire. But the princess called it a trifle. Mujilan had met many amazing swordsmen, so when she saw Lin Bo's posture, she realized that she was much stronger than Gao Chen. Not only was the girl able to repel the attack, but she decided to attack her opponent. However, her victory was hindered by a strong 7th rank breathing technique. When the protagonist realized that Lin Bo was in danger, he couldn't stand by and rushed to help. Once on the ground, they didn't see the old man walking towards them, who was using rank 7 magic, wanting to kill Lin Bo. Approaching, the man attacked the girl with powerful magic, confirming his hostile intentions. The young man borrowed Lin Bo's sword, preparing to resist the blows of the dangerous old man. Jin said that a strong flame needed wind and began to swing his sword, but his attempts were futile, for the fire was too great and there was not enough strength. The old man doubted that the village lad would have anything to oppose him, calling him too arrogant. The hero explained that he deliberately provoked the enemy, waiting for the moment when the flames cut off the ways of retreat. When the flames almost engulfed the young man, he straightened up and threw a grenade with the pin pulled. There was a deafening explosion that shook the surrounding area and for a moment obscured the raging flames. Shijin managed to grab the girl and roll out of the flames with her. Seeing them, the princess and Lin Yun ran up to them, worried about their condition. The guy was fine, but the blast wave was too strong, causing Lin Bo to lose consciousness. Lin Yun, unable to hold back, angrily demanded an explanation from Gao Qijin. The teacher of the disciplinary committee, who was Gao Chen's uncle, replied that he was in charge of discipline in the academy and should teach the troublemakers a lesson. Shijin assumed that the teacher was abusing his position by covering for his nephew. The young man menacingly asked if he wanted to teach him a lesson, because in his opinion, it was the teacher who got people in trouble. The indignant mentor's veins swelled and he interrogated what the student had said. Gao Chen approached his uncle, whom he hurriedly sent to class, saying that it was none of his business. The hero accused Gao Chen of attacking Lin Bo, rebuking the teacher for being biased and trying to avoid responsibility. The people around him understood his mentor's wrongdoing but did not dare to say anything. And after Zijin's statement, they looked at him from a different perspective. As they were leaving, the teacher said that, for a duel, they had to formally apply in the presence of a witness, which they didn't do, so he stopped them. The young man angrily objected that his nephew had first raised his hand against the girl, and if anyone needed to be stopped, it was him after all. The teacher had almost killed Linbo. The instructor angrily replied that if he wanted to kill her, the newcomer couldn't interfere and calmly walked away, hoping to repel the blow. Gauchen, standing beside his uncle, told the young man to stop embarrassing himself and promised to talk to him next time. The hero shouted in, "Next time?" and summoned magic, preparing to attack. Gao Kijin fearfully asked what the man was up to and tried to create a defense against his magic. But he realized that even an instantly used technique wouldn't be enough. The teacher couldn't believe that he didn't have time to react to the weakling's punch while possessing rank 7. The nephew cried out fearfully, seeing that his uncle was clearly losing the fight. Sijin swooped down on the guy with the sword, knocking him back with a blow, and offered to find out who was better. When he was free, his uncle went to help his nephew, shouting that the brat was finished, but the young man did not give up. He pulled the caps of 3 grenades simultaneously, preparing for a decisive throw. The teacher shouted the end of the student again as he turned around and sharply threw his secret weapon at him. They didn't have time to explode because the principal came to the rescue and disarmed them with magic, because otherwise they would have had to repair the training building again. In addition to disarming the grenades, he decided to also disarm the teacher, who was clearly out of line, by grabbing his arm and preventing the student from being hit. The principal said that, out of respect for the teacher's grandfather, his good friend, he would not remove him, but he would suspend him from the disciplinary committee. After dealing with the situation, Li Xian called out for Sijin to follow him. The obedient disciple went, before turning around to his friends and asking them to take care of Lin Bo. The old man turned to Gao Cheng, ordering him to return home, reflect on his behavior, and wait for a message about the opportunity to return to his studies. The student was angry at the hero, but did not dare to do anything about it, fearing a harsher punishment. The hero accused Gao Chen of attacking Lin Bo, rebuking the teacher for being biased and trying to avoid responsibility. On the way to the office, the headmaster turned to the student walking behind him and said that the trinkets were quite entertaining, asking him to keep them for study. The young man was pleased at the principal's interest in his homemade weapon, but asked to keep it a secret. The director asked how the young man planned to escape the blast, but he admitted that he was prepared to die in battle. Suspecting something amiss, the headmaster began to ponder the reasons for the conflict, and Ziejin was wary of revealing too much. On the other hand, he didn't want to lie, but he was just about to tell the truth when the old man took him by the shoulder and told him that everyone had secrets and it was okay if he didn't want to reveal them. The old man grinned and wondered if the young man was going to gather a harem, because everything was leading to the guy dating Mu Jilan. But he stood up for Lin Bo. The guy explained that he just hates it when someone is bullied and the rest of us do nothing. He said he used to be cowardly and distrustful, seeing a lot of injustice in the world. But being weak and timid, he couldn't change anything. The character noted that no matter what world you live in or what you do, it's only when your state of mind comes to normal that you truly stay alive. Siejin explained that he had decided to always do the right thing in an effort to become stronger and reach the 10th rank of spiritual perfection. Leaving the principal's office, Siejin felt extremely tired, wondering why he was in so much trouble on his first day of school. The kid was upset that he couldn't just hang out with his friends, date, and enjoy school life, and also the principal was looking out for him. Recently, Li Shen reminded him of his special status, asking him not to disturb others and to take care of the school property. Angered by the order not to deface property, the hero swung his arm to strike the column, shocking a passing teacher that someone was going crazy at the beginning of the school year. The young man saw the pros of studying at the school, striving to reach the level of Mu Jilan and Lin Yun on his own. His rich battle experience and passing more than 100 games gave him the reception to defeat the 6th rank. But the boy wondered if it was enough to be a worthy son of Lin Zun. Walking across the courtyard past the students and pondering the need to keep practicing, the young man didn't hear his name called. Using the scientific and technological advances of the previous world, the hero could create weapons that were not known here, but it was still not his own power, but the power of a weapon. Deep in thought about the importance of hard training when he was young, he didn't notice someone calling his name. Hua Yi, a classmate, called out, who finally caught up with the pensive boy by calling his name. Saying hello, the boy embarrassedly apologized that he hadn't heard her insistent call because he was brooding. The girl said that yesterday she heard a conversation about the importance of the young man, because thanks to him, the teacher Gao, who was scaring everyone, got into trouble. After expressing her delight with a confused speech, she pulled out a neatly folded letter addressed to the boy. His frightened expression gave away the idea that it was a love letter. Hua Yi, a little shy and blushing, held out an envelope with trembling hands and quietly asked to take it. Having fulfilled the request, the girl went about her business with peace of mind. Watching the departing classmate, the boy closed his eyes in pleasure, realizing how many beauties were in his group. The teacher interrupted the young man's dreamy mood by reminding him of class and suggesting that the letter could wait until recess. The teacher also mentioned that it wasn't necessarily a love message, but maybe a challenge to a duel. And the guy, realizing the logic, decided to take a look. Shijin knocked on the door of the nurse's station and was opened by the friendly Hua Yi, who invited him in. It was a doctor's office where the girl worked and spent a lot of time sensing abilities for healing techniques. She pointed her hand forward, politely asking to pass and not to be shy. In the room, Lin Bo was lying down, who had been forbidden by the doctor to get up due to a concussion. So she motioned for Zijin to sit down next to her. The young man nodded understandingly, but inquired curiously about the purpose of the unexpected call to the nurse's station. Lin Bo noted Zijin's skill, offering him a matching sword from her home collection, noting his lack of personal weapons. That weapon turned out to be the brown and yellow Devil Sword of Oblivion. Demonic Oblivion Sword? Zijin interrogated in surprise. Lin Bo explained that despite the name, the sword doesn't begin to control the wielder, causing him to kill people. The hero was perplexed as to why it was so named, assuming that no one in this world was capable of understanding and using this weapon. The girl said she didn't know how to explain it more properly, but felt he would be able to use the sword. She thought so because yesterday, the young man had borrowed her sword and fought with Teacher Gao to save her. Lin Bo realized that despite his excitement, Sijin was willing to sacrifice his life, completely abstracted from what was happening during the deadly battle. Startled by what was said, she asked not to be angry, for it was only her thoughts. Shijin reassured the girl, saying that he understood her reasoning and asked if that was why she thought the demon sword was suitable for him. The girl replied that they would know for sure if it was suitable when he saw the weapon, and invited him to come to her house tomorrow afternoon. After waiting for the guy to leave, Huayi wondered if it was scary to give a gift from her father to him, but Lin Bo assured that Zijin would be able to find an approach to the sword. The doctor began to say that their meeting was fated, but the patient, not meaning it, shouted at her not to talk nonsense. Walking home, Jin pondered that the demonic Oblivion sword sounded cool, and if he became one, he would be able to fight at full strength. Wow, how awesome! The young man exclaimed enthusiastically, anticipating receiving the legendary weapon. The next day, without wasting any time, the guy was already under Lin Bo's house. It was definitely her house, because a girl came out of the door and greeted her guest. Sijin greeted Lin Bo warmly, genuinely curious about her well-being after the recent events. The girl thanked Zijin for her help, and Huayi jokingly resented the hint of her friend's overprotectiveness. Coming closer and seeing the doctor, Zijin was surprised by her presence, and Huayi noted that the hero had already saved the girl despite their brief acquaintance. The doctor joked about the possible consequences of the young people's seclusion, causing Lin Bo's embarrassment and the awkwardness of the situation. She abruptly covered the mouth of her doctor friend standing next to her with her hand in an attempt to stop the jokes, and Zijin watched their warm but amusing relationship with a smile. Walking into the house, the young man noticed the small number of students and wondered if it was vacation time. Lin Bo briefly told the story of her family and the decline of the dojo after the illness of her father, a prominent fencer. Father was now too weak and only needed rest and recreation. So the dojo had fallen into disrepair, and there were only 4 students in the courtyard. Approaching one of the rooms, Lin Bo opened the doors and said that the Devil Oblivion sword was stored there. The first time he saw it, the young man thought it was a katana, but then he realized it was a 2-handed longsword called a miao dao. Shijin wondered what would happen if he just took the sword, and he pulled his hand. Taking the weapon by the hand, he heard the phrase, "What we need, we do not know, and what we know is not necessary for us." The guy couldn't tell if the sword was talking or if he could just hear it in his head. That's when he gripped the weapon even tighter and asked which iPhone was already out. He heard the voice in his head again. First you quote Faust, and now you ask about the iPhone? Finally raising his sword with his hand, the young man heard, "Damn it, I finally met someone who understands me. Let's chat, I'm dying of boredom." Fear appeared on the boy's face, and he thought that this wasn't cool at all. The girls watched the guy talking to the sword, and one of them said that the setting wasn't that mysterious, and he'd be fine. The young man held a gun that constantly questioned him about his background, expenses, annual salary, and availability of winter and summer vacations. Unable to stand it, he shouted that he'd had enough. They were no match for each other, and put the sword back down. Blade asked to ask just one question, and asked if the guy was planning on putting together a harem, because then he was definitely with him. Shijin turned around to the girls standing by the exit and said that, despite being hospitable, he was not good at controlling this weapon. Even once out the door, the hero continued to hear everything the sword was saying and wondered if it had Bluetooth. The further Zijin moved away from the sword, The fainter and more intermittent the mysterious signal became, gradually subsiding in his mind. The young man curiously asked Linbo where and under what circumstances her father had acquired this unusual sword. Linbo replied that she didn't know exactly. It was her father's second sword, which he used very little but could overpower almost anyone. The conversation was interrupted by someone's voice, asking if she was bragging and suggesting that her father go out for a walk if he was so cool. Turning around, they were bewildered to see three guys, the main one saying that he had heard about the glory of their dojo and had come to challenge them. The girl, realizing that she wasn't ready for the trouble that was coming, asked Zijin to leave, saying that she would deal with it herself. Linbo explained that masters used to come to their dojo to exchange experiences, but now only weaklings like these three, pointing to the attackers. One of the guys confirmed Zijin's guess about the Gao family's revenge, saying that they had come to deal with the girl who had crossed their path. Linbo said as a family member accepting the challenge and began to draw her sword, but Zijin stopped her, assuming that these weak henchmen had come to ferret out their abilities and offered to help deal with the scum since the girl had not yet fully recovered. The brigands started shouting that he was talking nonsense and was about to learn the power of their swords, asking him to show what he himself was capable of, after which the three of them threw themselves at him. Setting up, the hero drew his sword and used the streaming wounding technique his father had taught him to scatter everyone. Watching the incredible power of this technique, the girls opened their mouths. Approaching the opponents lying on the floor, the young man asked what was wrong with them. So weak. Linbo looked at Zijin with respect, realizing his strength after all. He had easily defeated 3 third-rank opponents, superior to ordinary humans. The lad reflected that in this world, ordinary people were outnumbered, and in his previous world, they would have been considered artificial warriors, and there they would have defeated him. Still sitting by the defeated opponents, Ziejin slapped one, telling him to wake up and stay awake. Grabbing the clothes of the awakened opponent, Ziejin found out that they were hired by the Gao family, but they don't know the specific customer, only hearing pleas for mercy. Some warrior standing nearby said that this time they had really hit a nerve with the Gao family, and now this old dojo was unlikely to survive for long. Linbo shouted, "Lu Xiao!" calling him a traitor and asking how dare he come here. The one replied in a friendly manner, why would she do that, since he was her father's student, and went back to see how they were doing since the dojo might close. Lu Xiao cynically offered to shelter Lin Bo and her father if the dojo closed, putting the old man in a barn and making the girl his concubine servant. The former dojo disciple annoyingly pointed out that this guy must be a new disciple, since he was fighting at the drop of a hat, as he watched Xie run at him with his sword. Lu Xiao, confident in his superiority, had easily broken the sword of the attacking Xie and was now standing, pointing the tip of his weapon directly at the face of his disarmed opponent. The young man had many ideas on how to defeat his opponent, but first, he had some things to do. He demanded compensation for his broken sword before continuing, and attempted to push back his opponent's blade with the remains of his weapon. Xijin was upset about the second broken sword, but took comfort in the fact that Lin's sword was intact, believing that only one of his blades had been broken so far. Lu Xiao laughed, noting that only this decaying dojo had such an interesting guy. Continuing to laugh, he hid his sword and introduced himself as the oldest of the dojo's fellow students, who had long rebelled against his mentor. Xijin proudly introduced himself as a student of the prestigious Royal Academy, hoping to impress. Lu Xiao warned that by going against the Gao family, Linbo would get no help, and to keep the dojo, must participate in the tournament next week and win it. The girl angrily wondered if he had come just for that statement. The opponent replied that he originally wanted to end the place, but now sees that it's not all that hopeless, and advised her to ask her boyfriend to enter the tournament in her place. Xijin and Lingbo blushed, barely being able to pronounce the words, while Hua Yi laughed at the word guy and called the gentleman straightforward. Still blushing, the girl apologized for the inconvenience to her friend, and he apologized for the broken sword. She said that the sword, while not bad, was inexpensive, and it had served her well, so she wasn't sorry to see it broken. The young man asked what kind of sword this Lu Xiao had and why it was so sharp. Linbo recounted the story of his father's first sword, Cicada Singing, which had left the dojo with no defense other than the Devil Sword of Oblivion, and the young man wondered about the possibility of mastering that weapon again. The girl didn't want to involve her friend in all this again, for she was already grateful for his willingness to help. She had long been prepared for something like this, and if he could control the sword, she would ask a favor to overpower Lu Xiao so that he could bail her out once more. After thinking about it, Linbo said that it was very selfish and asked her friends not to see her off, because they would see her tomorrow at school. Looking away to his departing friend, the lad was beckoned by one of the brigands who asked if it was okay to go already, if there were no more questions for them. The young man almost forgot about these scum and returned to them, asking if the Gao family would continue to send people like them to bother Lin Bo. The hero mentally mapped out a plan of revenge, deciding to teach his abusers a lesson by tying them naked to a pole to intimidate others. Leaving the punished offenders, the friends continued on their way, and Hua Yi wanted to make a request, but the young man was ahead of her, deciding to help despite Ling Bo's warnings. Shocked by the guy's kindness, Hua Yi confessed her budding feelings, but he turned the conversation around by asking about Mr. Lin. Hua Yi spoke of Ling Lo's reclusiveness, and the young man, mentioning the rumors of his injury and loss of strength, asked to narrate the details of the story. Surprised by the ignorance of her interlocutor, the girl with wide-open eyes began the story of the great battle between humans and the unclean, culminating in a decisive battle. Headland had heroically defeated a squad of foul wolves, and their commander sent in for a surprise attack. But the price of victory was a severe injury that deprived him of the ability to wield a sword. The young man explained that since he was injured during the battle, he should be treated as a hero with due respect, and asked why this was not the case. The young man, after listening to the story of the aristocrat's injustice, attributed the terrible character of Gao Chen and Gao Qijin to their family's heredity. Hua Yi, chuckling slightly, inquired curiously about her determined interlocutor's further plans. Xi Jin firmly declared his intention to wipe the Gao family into powder, leaving no trace of their influence behind. One of the teachers was angry, realizing that Lin Bo was preparing for the palace tournament, but Xi Jin wasn't attending his classes, causing him to crush the pencil in his hand. Seeing this, Lin Yun turned to Hua Yi sitting nearby, asking if their friend had gone to see Lin Bo. The girl only smiled enigmatically and replied that she did not know the whereabouts of her comrade. Yun marveled at the strangeness of a friend doing what he wanted and getting into trouble, and Mujilan turned away resentfully, saying, Meanwhile, the protagonist was already standing by the sword, preparing to try to own it again. He didn't know what others felt when touching this demonic sword, but he himself didn't feel anything bad. Taking the sword, the guy felt nothing unusual, shocking the girl, who explained that usually touching the blade caused strange thoughts and could take away one's sanity. As he scrutinized the sword, the young man wondered why it remained silent. After pondering, he remembered the tournament and asked Lin Bo to tell him about it, a competition between the best warriors that hadn't been held for many years. The girl spoke of two equal schools, martial arts, and spiritual practices, noting that warriors develop physical strength and mages develop spiritual strength, achieving different effects. But now it seems that absolutely everyone is a mage. Although there are sections of the academy that study martial techniques as something auxiliary, the young man thought. The girl confirmed that there were originally schools for martial arts and spiritual practices. But one day, one person changed that once and for all. The study of spiritual practices has become more accessible, allowing anyone to become a magician, while martial arts are only practiced by the gifted. Even though their dojo is very good and shows excellent results during the tournament, it still fell into disrepair. The young man asked curiously about the man who had changed his attitude to spiritual practices, to which the girl was perplexed and asked where he had come from without knowing such elementary things. The boy tilted his head in shame, thinking that his irresponsible parents should be blamed for this. A friend raved about the first teacher of spiritual practices, the founder of their school, who shared the practices and became the genius of the millennium. The boy was distracted by the sword speaking, stating their common origin from another world. Blade quoted his famous saying, "I feel very lonely," hinting at a deep philosophical meaning that Ziejin might not have realized. Upon hearing this, the young boy began to roar, assuming that the sword was from the generation of the eternally sad. Linbo was startled by the guy's strange behavior, but the guy calmed her down by saying that everything was fine. After calming down, the young man inquired as to the reason for the sudden talkativeness of the sword, who admitted that he wanted to keep silent out of resentment, but couldn't help himself. Sword advised Zijin to meet Lin Lei, and the young man immediately expressed his desire to see the girl's father. Ling Bo led Zijin to her father with a smile, noting the necessity of this meeting for the devil sword inheritance. Lin Lei didn't mind seeing the guy and allowed him to go in alone. Entering the room and closing the door, the young man apologized for the disturbance, not yet knowing what lay ahead of him. Preparing for a serious conversation, the guy introduced himself as a classmate of the man's daughter. Lin Lei's unexpected attack caught Zijin off guard, making him wonder how he was able to strike without a sword. The man sitting in front explained that he had simply combined thoughts and a bit of ice cold, producing a substance as sharp as a sword blade. The young man almost died of fear, and the man noted that a normal person would not even feel the approach of the blow, and he not only felt, but also had time to react. Lingla added that this time, his naive little girl had found a worthwhile man, and very seriously asked Zijin if he wanted to marry her. The guy asked fearfully why so immediately, and did the master not like that Lin Bo had arranged for them to meet. Lin jokingly suggested that the guy didn't like his daughter, and advised him to think about the future, hinting at Lin Bo's potential beauty. Sijin really disliked this behavior of his father, and defending his friend, he said that she would decide for herself whom she wanted to marry. Lingla, chuckling, realized that his daughter and probably the other girls in the school were attracted by Ziejin's character, reminiscent of himself in his youth, while the young man felt uneasy with the old man's strange behavior. The girl's father offered to be Zijin's godfather, to give him the sword to defeat Lu Xiao since he won't marry his daughter. Shijin objected, citing his spirit deity father and 10 years of swordsmanship training, doubting the usefulness of a few days of lessons from Ling Lei. When the frustrated young man was about to leave, Lin Lo intrigued him with the Devil Moon Ice Stream technique and other powerful dojo techniques applicable to the unique sword. The boy rushed to his knees to bow to his new godfather, for his real father had not taught him any techniques. The young man worried whether he would have time to master some technique in the week before the tournament, and whether it would help him in a fight with his opponent. Lin Lo noted the kid's giftedness and the possibility of success with intensive training, and then asked the swordmaster about the possibility of extending the time within a week. Shijin put his hand on the blade, who replied that he didn't know himself yet, because he needed to assess the guy's spiritual strength, but tentatively 1 year. The sword then said, "Follow me," and said, "Bolo bolo me," which made the hero start screaming fearfully, asking what the spell was. Suddenly finding himself in an unfamiliar place, Zijin learned from the sword that his soul had been transported to the subconscious dream world, where a year could pass in a second of real time with a strong spirit. The character enthusiastically remarked that it's just like the movie Inception, and that's what the sword meant. Ling Lo walked through this city, marveling that is it really true that there were people who had crossed over to their world from this one. Shijin asked Mr. Lin in surprise as to how he ended up in this strange dream world. The one replied that it was a handy sword ability. And not only would they have enough time here, but he could take the young man to the limit of his abilities. Linlo explained that he couldn't hold a sword in reality, but it was different in the dream world, and added that the Devil Moon Ice Stream technique required a strong body, unsuitable for the frail Lin Bo. As he began his training, Mr. Lin mentioned the effectiveness of individual lessons, and mentioned revival in the event of death, which greatly frightened the young man. While pondering this phrase, he was distracted and didn't notice the attack preparing behind him. The hero shouted to the sword, asking, since he could create such a place, could he not bring some systematicity to the practice of swordsmanship? Lindley sternly reminded that this was not a game, and the sword apologized for the lack of the usual exercise system, asking him to respect the established customs. A worried Ling Bo was approached by Hua Yi and inquired about Xie. The girls looked at the door of the room, hoping that the guy who had been there for the third day would come out of there now, alive and unharmed. But they did not know that there was no one in the room, for they were in another world, where the young man was all wounded and very tired. A whole and unharmed Lin Li, as if he was omnipotent, said that maybe he should stop chilling and resting, pointing at the guy. Coughing, the boy began to beg the sword to help him at least a little and heal his wounds. It worked, and in the same hour everything healed, and he got up fully recovered, realizing that his father had been doing him favors with his training, or he would have died tens of thousands of times by now. The young man stood as if he had gained strength and put his sword against his opponent, offering to fight again, because this time he would definitely defeat him. Mr. Lin was amazed that the young man, having died so many times, still hadn't lost his fighting spirit, because despite the unreality of what was happening, the feeling of death here was realistic. Anyone would have felt fear and tried to avoid it, but the enemy pondered whether it was possible at his age to keep a cold heart and sober mind, and more importantly, not be afraid of death. Deciding that it was time for a change of strategy, Lin Lei used the final form of the Devil Moon Ice Stream technique. The guy looked on with eyes huge with surprise, perplexed as to whether this was still just swordsmanship. The man said that since Ziejin already knew the technique, he offered to try to reflect the final form. Drawing his sword, the young man began to try to counter the blows flying at him. This technique forces the body to reach its speed limit, so that it does not affect the sword in any way, and the person becomes one with it. All his life, Lin Bo's father had honed this technique, gathering the power of the moon and stars. Directing a new attack at the hero, he asked what exactly Zijin wished for with all his heart. The guy realized that he wouldn't be able to reflect it in time and would die scared because it was really scary. He realized that he was afraid of death and never felt that his life meant anything in this world. The young man sank into the memories of his childhood, realizing how insignificant and useless his existence had been. The images of his parents had been erased from his memory by the years since they had abandoned him to his fate. Therefore, it didn't matter if he lived or not, and no one would be sad if he died by disappearing from this world. But now he's no longer the same. For in another world, he's surrounded by good people, his friends, and so his meaning of life, destiny, and goals, he will determine himself. With just such a message, he rushed into battle to repel the attack. The fight ended and the opponents separated, recovering their breath. Mr. Lin looked at the young man with delight, for he had indeed pulled it off and fell to the ground without strength. After waking up, the guy heard from the sword that he had been unconscious for a very long time and Ling Lei had long since left. The hero looked around in amazement, noting the unusual details of the surroundings. Sijin asked the sword about the nature of this world, and the blade told him that everything was created from the young man's memories, including long-forgotten details. Getting ready to leave, the guy decided to check out one more place beforehand. He froze at the door, remembering that his mother had married a second time in that world. But he couldn't resurrect her image. Overwhelmed by the desire to see his mother, he opened the door with determination, preparing to step into the past. What was his surprise when, stepping forward, he found himself in his old home. The young man saw little himself and his mother playing with him, very cheerful and happy. He didn't have long to look at this picture, and as soon as the woman looked up to see who had come in, the door immediately closed, and she saw no one. Frightened by what he saw, Ziejin ran out into the familiar world, where the sword explained that it was his strong memories that allowed him to enter that world. Blade said after the departing guy that he did not think that he loved his mother so much, and still, look, will cry from feelings. Leaving the room a few days later, the young man was surprised to find his friends who had been waiting for his return all this time. A few days later, the arena for the tournament was ready. Lin Yong and Mu Jilan discussed the upcoming tournament, noting the large number of strong competitors gathered for the first time in 10 years. Now, the differences between schools are blurring, so these tournaments are a good opportunity to show what martial arts can do, and there are quite a few students from their academy here. Friends talked about the complex selection system and high competition, where luck plays not the least role in determining the winner. Talking amongst themselves, the friends suddenly noticed that it was their comrade Zijin's turn. The training was very intense, and the guy slept for days afterward, but he never regained his strength, so he yawned constantly. One of the upperclassmen, noticing a yawning and tired-looking Zijin, curiously asked if he was the famous freshman hero. Mujilan started asking a bunch of questions to Lin Yun, whether he knew Zijin's first opponent, the high school student, what he was like, and whether he was strong. The guy honestly replied that there might be a problem with this competitor. After all, he was around rank 5 right now, and even if their friend could win, he would spend too much energy. The senior mockingly noted Zijin's calmness, considering him an arrogant upstart, and began to prepare to attack, confident in his superiority. The opponent declared the unfairness of life and his intention to put Junior in his place, rushing to attack the step on his way to victory. Shijin nonchalantly stopped the sword blade with 2 fingers, advising his opponent not to hold back because of the age difference. The stunned high school student couldn't believe what was happening, suspecting some sort of deception or illusion. The high school student screamed in panic, fearing for the safety of his precious sword in the young man's hands. The boy released the weapon with a light movement, and the blade bounced smoothly towards his stunned opponent. His opponent, trying to save face, backed away, making excuses of inattention and condescension for the younger man not expecting such force. The cocky high school student shouted that no more indulgences and rushed back into the attack. Shijin once again grabbed his sword with 2 fingers, not allowing himself to be injured. The opponent was almost crying, begging him not to do that, because he still wanted a sword fight. The young man continued to hold the blade, and a spark of thoughtfulness appeared in his eyes. The high school student fell to his knees, threw his sword beside him, and realized that the only thing left to do was to surrender, because he definitely wouldn't win. Watching this, Lin Yun assumed that the guy would have a psychological trauma, and the princess wondered if their friend had always been so strong. Smiling, Huai said that last time, Zijin had tied the warriors who were causing trouble for the Lin family to the pillars in the center of the city. Due to the large number of tournament participants, Gao Chen was also among them, displeased with the presence of the Lin family, and determined to prevent them from winning at all costs. Lu Xiao reminded Gao of the possible attention to the Lin family if they performed well, but the latter brushed it off, stating his plans to hinder their success. The conversation was interrupted by a clerk bringing bad news. Xie Jin had just defeated his opponent. Gao, changed in face but understanding of Jin's abilities, yelled at the aide for reporting trivia, knowing that he would not lose in the first battle. Lu Xiao stopped the departing clerk and asked which sword the young man had used in the first battle. Gao didn't understand his friend's interest after all. Xie Jin was fighting the best high school student of their school, who was also their guardian. Mr. Lu Xiao more seriously and intimidatingly asked about the sword again. Chen, unable to stand it, grabbed the clerk by his clothes, shouting for him to answer the question clearly. But the answer he heard took him by surprise. Xie Jin stopped his opponent's attack with 2 fingers, and he immediately admitted defeat. Looking out the window at the arena, Lu Xiao realized the curiosity of this little guy and the need to put him in his place urgently. After the battle, Xi Jin, passing by, noticed the friends and at their invitation joined them. Impressed by their victory over the 4th-ranked high schooler, the friends learned from the hero about the specifics of martial arts without the use of spiritual techniques. Mujilan cried out again, wondering how she had managed to defeat an opponent she considered very strong. Lin Yun admiringly called Zijin a chosen one, lamenting his unremarkable life. Lin Bo announced the end of the day's competition, and Lu Xiao's appearance only at the official competition, bidding farewell to her friends before returning to the dojo. Lin Yun also hurried home, citing urgent family matters. Left alone with the princess, Zijin said that although it had been a little while, he felt as if they hadn't walked together in a long time. The girl seriously rebuked Zijin for his constant troubles, but immediately faltered when she remembered her challenge to a duel before the school year even started. The young man also stopped, slightly embarrassed, and asked if he was really making the princess worry about him. Mujilan insisted to Zijin not to lose, and he nodded confidently and assured her of his success, after which they continued on their way. Watching Zijin's performance at the tournament, his friends silently admired his tenacity, knowing the upcoming training tomorrow that made him so successful at the competition. The commander-in-chief of the Gao family's city guards, Gao Yuan, considered it unacceptable for Her Majesty to personally attend the tournament. The princess wondered with slight bewilderment if the tournament would be meaningless without her presence at it. For Gao Yuan, the safety of the princess was paramount, even more important than the tournament itself. Her Majesty reminded the commander-in-chief of his family's responsibility for her safety, asking if he wanted to keep her locked up at court out of some hidden agenda. He bowed respectfully, assuring that all necessary security measures were in place for the tournament. The princess imperiously ordered him to go, and he obeyed her will unquestioningly. She said that she had heard about Sai's son's participation from Lin Liu Dojo, and she was curious to see him with her own eyes, wondering if he was handsome. An enraged Gao Chen slammed his fist on the table upon learning that Her Majesty would personally attend the tournament. Lu Xiao speculated the reason for his friend's behavior, but the latter reminded him of the importance of his family patronage for Lu's safety. As he left, Gao said that if Lu Xiao went up against that guy in the tournament, he wanted him to be destroyed. Left alone, Mr. Lu noticed the beautiful day and the scenic spot, making his heart beat more frequently. In the evening after practice, one of the tournament participants returning home noticed suspicious surveillance. It turned out to be an assassin sent by a mysterious gentleman to eliminate a participant. The boy unwound his spear, wondering who had sent the assassin and if he was really thinking of preventing him from competing in an official competition. As he attacked, the stranger pondered the difficulty of sword versus spear combat, especially in a poorly chosen narrow alley with no chance of repelling his attack. He lunged at the assassin with a divine spear of piercing strike. Having quickly disposed of the victim, the killer checked the list, noting that 13 more people remained to be eliminated, and hurried onward under the light of the bright moon. Early in the morning, Lin Yun rushed to Jin with terrible news. Of the 16 participants in the tournament, besides him and Lu Xiao, the other 14 had been killed last night. The second day of the competition began at the Lin Liu Dojo, where Mujilan, Linbo, and Hua Yi had already gathered. They were soon joined by a frightened young man, trying to find out at once what had happened. He unexpectedly heard his question answered by the princess's father, who said that it must be the work of Lu, who was interested in the boy. When asked about the reasons for this opinion, the answer followed, characterizing Lu Xiao as having outstanding abilities but an extremely impatient nature. Eager to fight the hero as soon as possible, Lu Xiao eliminated the other contestants, ensuring that the finals would only be for the 2 of them, causing Xie Jin to wonder if the tournament would be cancelled because of such actions. It was explained to him that Lu Xiao, having killed 14 people overnight, had secured a one-on-one fight with the devil sword wielder, possibly practicing before the encounter. The princess inquired about Lu Xiao's personality and his swordsmanship. Lin described him as an obsessive swordsman who traveled the world and challenged masters after the rebellion against Lin Liu. This is how Lu Xiao studied martial techniques, bringing the art of the sword to perfection. Mr. Lin recommended that the fellow should not treat his opponent as an ordinary swordsman in the upcoming fight. The young man inquired about the devil blade he had just spoken of. Gao Yuan explained that this was the third sword technique inherited by the magical general, and turned to Xiao Lei, how much trouble he was causing. The protagonist was extremely surprised to learn that the interlocutor also has the surname Gao. Lin Yun explained that it was Lord Gao Yuan, for the Gao family was now in charge and commanding the defense of the royal capital. Gao Yuan assured Zijin that his son would ensure his safety within the school's walls. Hero noted that Lu Xiao's long-standing conflict with Lin Shin Liu and the Gao family doesn't concern them if they stay out of it. Gao Yuan said that there was no proof of Lu Xiao's guilt, and as the protector of the capital, he should stop the jousting and test both of them. However, respecting the emperor's will, he called for a dignified wait for the competition to begin. Mr. Lin advised not to dwell on thoughts of the opponent, because if he wins, all questions can be asked in person. He added that in times of peace, such talents could not be exposed to the dangers left behind, and Ziejin promised to try his best. Gao Yuan, leaving, said that he would send soldiers for security and ordered Ziejin to stay here and wait for orders, while the rest of them went back. The friends, not wanting to argue, decided to part ways, lastly asking Ziejin to be careful. In the evening, lying down and already preparing for sleep, the young man heard the sword's warning of someone's footsteps. Shijin, wary, noticed an unknown figure silently slip through the window into his room. The young man immediately asked who it was, but the stranger, not calculating, landed badly and fell to the floor and started screaming in pain. The stranger rebuked the awake Zijin for trying to scare him, to which the latter objected, pointing out the inappropriateness of a nighttime intrusion. The stranger approached, clarifying the identity of Zijin, who confirmed the statement and demanded to introduce himself in return. After throwing off the hood, a beautiful girl with the unusual pink hair appeared in front of the young man and introduced herself as Helian Linlin. To the young man's questions about the purpose of the visit and the method of entry, the girl boastfully replied that even the spirits wouldn't have noticed her. But Zijin ironically pointed out her clumsy appearance. The stranger noted that all the tournament participants had been killed, and now she was the only one to come to him, and he was expressing such equanimity that it wasn't even funny. The young man confidently proclaimed his guest's innocence, which prompted her further questions. Linlin challengingly asked how Zijin was sure of her innocence and Lu Xiao's guilt. Shijin firmly declared his intention to catch the real culprit, no matter who he was. The admiring girl called Zijin a worthy son of Jie Yi, unable to hold back and snuggled up to him in a burst of feelings. Surprised by his father's knowledge, Zijin once again demanded an explanation from the stranger. Linlin was surprised that he still didn't know who she was. After all, she had fully named herself, and noted that Jie Yi had deservedly trained him. Looking at the guy with loving eyes and getting as close as possible, she took his head as if preparing to kiss him. But after looking at him, she realized that he was both Zijin and not Zijin at the same time. Leaning her forehead against Xiejin's, the girl inquired about the purpose of his arrival, hinting at his origin from another world, much to the hero's surprise. Hearing the question of what they were doing and the warning that if anything happened, they would take responsibility, as well as the order to search every room, the girl realized it was time to bolt. The girl, trying to leave the room through the window, asked for help from Ziejin, who mockingly reminded her of her praised agility. While helping the girl out, Zijin caused her to resent the supposedly inappropriate touching, even though he was just supporting her. Quickly being outside, she peered through the window and warned that her coming must remain between them. Putting on his hood and running off into the woods, the stranger turned once more to the window, waved, and told him to do his best at the competition tomorrow. The boy waved back, still not understanding why she was coming or what family she was from. The next day, the arena was once again filled with spectators, anticipating exciting bouts. Shijin stood beside his friends, recalling the conversation he had with Mr. Lin yesterday about not overexerting himself, to which the guy replied that he would try his best. The hero was facing the arena, scrutinizing the noisy crowd and colorful flags, when suddenly he heard his name. Turning around, he saw Lu Xiao with a triumphant smile, announcing the arrival of the long-awaited day of the duel. Gao Chen stood behind him, barely containing his rage at the sight of the young man. Suddenly it was pronounced that one should salute Her Majesty, and all present bowed. It was at this point that the lad reflected that he had never yet seen the ruler of this country, and he wondered what kind of man he was. Shijin looked up to see the ruler seated on the throne, surrounded by courtiers. The young man couldn't come to grips with the realization that it was the girl from last night. But what struck him even more was that she was looking right at him. Her Majesty put her finger to her lips, showing a gesture of silence that made a drop of sweat roll down the boy's face. He abruptly turned to Lin Bo standing beside him and inquired about the surname of the imperial family in their country. Ling Bo, shocked by Ziejin's ignorance, struggled to squeeze out that the ruling dynasty's surname was Helion and warned against violating the strict court etiquette, realizing the danger of his ignorance. Ziejin was relieved that he hadn't done anything reprehensible yesterday and decided to ask Lin Yun about this world after the tournament. Lord Gaoyuan ordered the participants of the imperial tournament to step forward. Xijin and Lu Xiao solemnly entered the arena, taking positions opposite each other to the enthusiastic cries of the audience. Lin asked if it was true that the participants in the final battle were both disciples of Master Lin Li. In her opinion, Lin Shenlu's strength should be taken seriously. After all, their family is a branch of the House of Gao, and its servant should also feel glory and honor. Cao said that Lin Shenlu had raised two young geniuses, and that was lucky for his country. Her Majesty warned him that regardless of the outcome of the battle, under no circumstances should he do anything about Lin Shenlu, and ordered him to forget the offenses. Gao bowed respectfully, expressing his understanding and willingness to obey the Empress's order. Standing face to face, Lu Xiao ironically noted Wang Gui's unexpected approval of Ziejin, and the latter responded by expressing incomprehension as to how his opponent had earned Chaitming's trust and changed so much. Promising to reveal the truth only if Ziejin won, Lu Xiao threateningly began to bare his blade, preparing for a deadly fight. The devil's sword reminded the guy that he couldn't be distracted and needed full concentration. The opponents, swords drawn, exchanged determined glances, and the arena fell silent as they waited for the fierce duel to begin. In the heat of battle, Lu Xiao noted the young man's significant growth and strength, assuming he had been trained by Ling Lei, and suggested that they call each other brothers. Xijin parried, reminding him of a student's ability to surpass the teacher, and advised his opponent to be careful. Lu Xiao, expressing impatience to test this claim, swiftly swung his blade that flashed in the air. The guy, showing lightning-fast reactions, barely managed to pull back, avoiding the deadly blow. Instantly gathering himself, Xijin released Lin Shenlu's latent energy, preparing for a counterattack. The fight continued, with the opponents picking up speed and barely managing to fend off each other's blows. The princess watching the battle swept up that they were very strong and powerful. Unlike a magic duel, they don't use special techniques. There's no wall of fire, typhoon, or hurricane. But the arena is very tense. Linbo noted that they exclusively use martial arts. Constantly, someone was attacking and the other was fighting back. Life and death, victory and defeat were at the tip of the blade. One powerful blow, and both opponents, thrown back by the force of the collision, scattered to different ends of the arena. Barely able to stand on his feet, the hero realized that his opponent was the strongest he had met. As intimidating as Spirit King Gao Qi, he is even as strong as Lin Lei's predecessor and father combined. Lu Xiao, smiling admiringly, recognized his opponent's strength, noting that he hadn't enjoyed a fight like this in a long time. Xijin, trying to hide the trembling in his voice, honestly admitted his fear of the formidable opponent. Lu Xiao, suddenly mollified, offered to spare the young man's life in exchange for admitting defeat, considering it a more interesting outcome. But the hero replied that if he admitted defeat now, he must not dare to overpower him afterward. Lu Xiao, accepting the challenge, prepared to use his legendary cicada ghost sword technique. The sword tried to warn the wielder that the cicada's blade was as sharp as its wings, and not only cut iron like clay, but also had other special effects. Xijin's opponent jumped high and began to execute a complex sequence of movements of his deadly technique. The young man barely managed to fend off the attack, but the sword warned that it was not yet complete, and bleeding wounds appeared on the hero. The fight continued with increasing intensity as Lu Xiao fiercely attacked, and Ziejin tried to repel the blows with all his strength. Seeing more and more wounds on himself, he finally realized it was the effect of the vacuum. Due to the high-frequency vibration when the sword is swung, a vacuum is instantly released on its trajectory, forming a second invisible blade. Almost covered in blood, but continuing to fight, the young man realized the unusual nature of the attack. The cicada's vacuum blade acts after a blow from a regular sword. He realized that if he interrupted the attacks of the cicada blade, he wouldn't be able to stop subsequent attacks. Masters, unlike mages practicing martial arts, focus on using their physical and spiritual power. To defeat a strong opponent, a master must train relentlessly, building up his power. If you can't break through the enemy's defense, you need to improve your attack speed. The path of a martial arts adept is a continuous endeavor to increase the speed of movement. The speed of light is no limit. Their skill is endless development and torment of the flesh. The apprentice turned to the master sitting in front of him, asking if it was easier to slow down an enemy if you couldn't get faster. Guy asked for help in creating the Eye of Cicada's sword, not knowing the end result, but confident in the name. Lu Xiao fought against Zijin using that very same sparkling in the air, legendary Cicada Ghost Sword. Gao Yun, watching Lu Xiao's lightning-fast attacks, was confident in their irresistibility. Lin Lin commented anxiously, urging the kid not to die so senselessly in this battle. The young man's friends, tensely watching the duel, shouted his name, warning of danger. Zijin, showing incredible agility, miraculously dodged the deadly blow, preserving the integrity of his spine. The opponent, intrigued by the evasion, decided to test the young man's next move by swinging his sword again. In response to the attack, Zijin swung his weapon, shouting out the name of the moon sword technique. Lu Xiao bounced back, realizing that the guy had broken through his defenses and needed to increase the distance. Only with a full turn of the sword can the cicada's attack be repelled. So by guessing the right moment, the blade will be able to destroy his weapon. Reflecting the blows, Mr. Lu assumed that Ling Xin had transmitted the strength of the moon to the young man. He swung his sword and used the technique with a wave that shattered the rock ahead and rushed towards the young man. Shijin, standing in a fighting stance, pondered the risk, while his sword encouraged him, promising to repel any attack. Inspired by the moon power transmitted by Lin Xin Liu, the guy was ready to rush into battle with renewed determination. In a swift dash, the young man jumped up, delivering a lightning-fast blow, so fast that the spectators had no time to catch his movements. Lin, amazed by Lu Xiao's lack of reaction, assumed that the attack was incredibly swift and unexpected for the opponent. Her Majesty began to contemplate that they, watching from the side, might see the blows, but in front of the eyes of the guy's opponent, it's different. Using his body and sword, he stopped the attack, and with smooth foot movements, he demonstrated his skill in anticipating his opponent's footsteps. Lu Xiao knew that Zijin's inaction was deceptive, and after such a move, after accumulating all his strength, the young man swiftly rushed forward with light, imperceptible, smooth, and clearly measured steps. The girl enthusiastically described the essence of the illusion, comparing it to the disappearance of the moon watching invisibly from the sky, ready to applaud the mastery of the deception. Seeing the young man slash through his opponent's sword, Her Majesty realized that Zijin was indeed a peerless sword master who possessed the Linglei technique. The first reaction of his friends was quite strange. No one could believe he had won. But after realizing that it didn't seem like it to them, they began to cheer for their friend who had defeated Lu Xiao. The defeated soldier started coughing, and through the pain he muttered that the guy's sword was good, and only a person who had gone through many battles and training could master a technique of such strength. Shijin warned the defeated opponent not to move, keeping the blade dangerously close to his heart. As if speaking of this last request, the defeated man began to say that if he could, he too would like to stand like this for a while. But when he continued that, once he came to his senses, his soul would already be completely consumed by the demon. His sword began to turn red. Seeing the change in the color of the blade, Her Majesty immediately knew that it was a devilish power and was frightened. She shouted for the young man to move away from the defeated enemy, and Gao Yuan ordered the Royal Defense Squad to be put on alert. The hero also saw the change, but he only managed to utter, "This?" with startled eyes. The dying opponent with red pupils let out a chilling scream filled with demonic energy. The ghost of a weeping demon hovered ominously around the sword, filling the air with an eerie aura. The sword explained to the frightened and uncomprehending guy who didn't understand what was happening that apparently the cicada sword had been infected, and it was clearly done by the third demon killed by Lin Li, that is, the crying demon. The royal guards, realizing the danger, rushed towards Lu Xiao in an attempt to stop his transformation, but they didn't stand a chance, for they didn't even get close to him as they all started to drop dead. Lin Yun ordered everyone to leave urgently, and ordered the level 4 and above martial practitioners to ensure a safe exit. The princess clearly didn't want to listen to him and had already prepared her weapons, arrows to attack. Lin also shouted for them not to attack the demon, as they are not his opponents, trying to stop the friend standing next to him with that. But Si Jin is still there, and it is now their duty to protect the common people, and the young man can only hope for himself. Lin Bo froze in confusion and fear, unable to believe what was happening before her eyes. Helion asked about the curse placed by the dying demon on the cicada sword that caused Linglei's ailment. Her Majesty was advised to take shelter in a safe place, while the lord and guards dealt with Lu Xiao. While wearing the crown, the princess accused them of negligence, leading to a dangerous situation due to personal revenge. She warned of an upcoming serious conversation with Lord Gao about what had happened. The Lord angrily accused Mr. Liu of submitting to evil, demanding that he stop resisting detention. Lu Xiao raised his head and promised to take revenge for the old man's unfair treatment. Gao Yi shouted, "Die!" And after creating magic, he unleashed it into the air. Si Jin couldn't believe his eyes. After all, he was a level 9 warrior, and his strength was several times that of a level 7 warrior. But the demon-ridden student was not about to give up, and also unleashed a demon to help him carry out the plan. The demon simultaneously began to instill itself into all the dead warriors, raising them up. The demon-animated warriors with burning red eyes stood up, ready to do his bidding. Their sole purpose became the merciless destruction of all those they met in their path. But before that, the resurrected soldier's skin peeled off, revealing ghastly bony figures ready for battle. The royal guards, unaffected by the demon's influence, engaged in a fierce battle with the undead, ready to defend the city to the last drop of blood. Lu Xiao's bony servants, possessing inhuman strength and invulnerability, easily defeated the living warriors. The revitalized corpses inexorably pursued the cornered Gao Chen, who was begging for help and desperately trying to escape. The Lord, hearing his son's cries, did not hesitate a second to rush to his aid, risking his own life to save his heir. Swiftly reaching Chen, he stood between him and the zombie, forming a human shield and preparing for a desperate fight. Having won an uneasy victory over the dead, the exhausted father sternly ordered his son to leave the dangerous place immediately. Demonic Lu Xiao wryly remarked that the mighty lord had only condescended to save a pitiful offspring, disregarding the deaths of the others, and contemptuously called their family insignificant. Suddenly, the demon heard a desperate scream demanding not to hurt someone's friends, breaking the eerie silence. To Lu Xiao's genuine surprise, what stood in front of him was not an opponent who had escaped, but a bravely returned opponent, ready to continue the fight. Lu Xiao said that apparently the young man was very moral since he wanted to protect his friends. But don't let him worry, he won't kill them since they had already reached a safe place. The guy asked the logical question as to why the demon was doing this, not realizing who was in front of him, a good human or a soulless demon. Lu Xiao philosophically replied that being good was his long-time dream, and being a demon was an inevitable fate that he had resigned himself to. He didn't know for sure if the ancient curse of the sword was making itself felt, or if powerful warriors from the past had influenced him in this way. But today he, exhausted, is no longer able to understand this mysterious situation in detail. The hero, trying to understand Lu Xiao's motives, cautiously asked if he knew about the curse when he decided to steal the sword. The demon replied that old man Ling Lei was too kind, and the cursed sword was better suited for him, giving vent to his dark thoughts. When asked by the young man about the propriety of killing so many people, Lu Xiao parried by suggesting that the hero be the last person he would kill. The hero confidently shouted his intention to stop Lu Xiao, preparing for the decisive battle to save the city. The demon mockingly offered a look at the young man's capabilities, using devastating magic that crushed the arena floor. The young man was distracted by the destruction for a moment, but he noticed Lu Xiao's swift attack just in time. Stopping dangerously close, the demon swung a bloody red blade, preparing to strike a deadly blow. The hero decided to use the final form of the Devil Moon Ice Stream, recalling the critical moment of the battle with Lin Li. Realizing the impossibility of repelling the blow, he strove to survive using all the skills he had acquired during his training. The young man concentrated on finding the one accurate strike that could hit his opponent. After all, one precise and skillfully calibrated strike is superior to 100 useless lunges. Luck smiled on the hero. Watching the approaching enemy, he suddenly noticed the demon's vulnerable spot, hidden from other eyes. Without wasting a second, the guy struck a lightning-fast and precise blow at the demon's detected weakness. The bleeding Lu Xiao couldn't understand how this happened, although he realized that there were no invincible swords. But he was perplexed as to how this young man had found the weak point of his weapon so quickly. The demon thought that the boy was smart beyond his years, and the student really surpassed the teacher. These were Lu Xiao's last words before he dropped dead on the ground. Hearing the sound of falling, the hero turned around and was relieved that the enemy would not get up again. With the demise of the main demon, his minions had clearly lost most of their power. The general who came in couldn't believe that the guy in front of him had handled such evil. He looked at the young man so maliciously that he felt his anger and hoped that under the clamor the general would not kill him, for only his men remained nearby. After a few seconds, the warlord said that the guy could be proud of himself today, and he realizes that some of his family members are not the best people on the planet. The incident that happened would hit Gao's family very hard, and the young man might think that he had repaid them in this way. While saying this, they looked at the corpse of the lying demon. But what was their stunned surprise when the mask suddenly fell off him, revealing his true face? The general and the guy were beyond angry, for this turned out to be the corpse of someone other than Lu Xiao. Crouching down beside the dead body, the warlord recognized it as one of his warriors, and assumed that Mr. Lu had used this technique to escape from the beginning. He continued to sit by the corpse and told Zijin to leave, for he had nothing more to do here. The young man bowed respectfully and, without wasting a second, began to carry out the order he had received. Leaving the place, the hero was confronted by Gao Chen, whose hostile gaze was accompanied by a sharp warning of the incompleteness of their confrontation. Shijin, holding back his irritation, reminded Gao Cheng of the seriousness of the situation and advised him to support his father in the looming problems of the family. The arrogant young man started yelling how dare he talk to him like that, and ordered his subordinates to give the jerk a good lesson. However, Chen, not realizing the full extent of what was happening, tried in vain to command the warriors, who ignored his orders. They all left, leaving a stunned and angry Gao Chen sitting alone on the floor, immersed in his gloomy thoughts. Lin Lei, immersed in his thoughts, sat in the dojo courtyard, leisurely smoking a pipe and enjoying the peaceful view of nature. Sensing the unexpected guest, he told him not to hide, but to pass, for he had long since been seen. Lu Xiao hesitantly walked out from behind the pillar, and the mentor, noticing his confusion, asked about the defeat and advised him to find his own path rather than follow someone else's. The former disciple expressed admiration, noting how, in just a few days of training, Lin Le was able to prepare a boy capable of overpowering him. The mentor, noticing the weakening influence of the sword, was perplexed as to why Lu Xiao persisted in his chosen path, willing to confront the entire world for his goal. He announced his intention to travel north to seek the patronage of evil spirits, anticipating their next encounter as enemies. Foolish child, the mentor said bitterly, continuing to smoke and contemplate nature, now clouded by heavy thoughts. After a fierce and grueling fight, the young man was jubilant. The Linla family's perennial problems had finally been resolved. After the tournament was over, the city was immediately put under a special regime. The royal guards carefully searched for traces of Lu Xiao, but were unsuccessful. He had probably long gone into hiding. The empress, recognizing the young man's brilliant victory, solemnly awarded Lin Li the honorary title of Grand Master of Fencing. After his impressive performance, Lin Lei was actively approached by numerous disciples, although he did not seek such high-profile fame. Martial arts had regained its former popularity, and the hero sincerely hoped that Lin Bo was very happy about this unexpected fact. The Gao family had finally lost their prestigious right to guard the imperial court due to their scandalous connection to Lu Xiao's criminal actions. Gao Cheng was incredibly lucky. Thanks to his father's influential connections, he was not imprisoned, but only placed under strict house arrest. The lad inwardly rejoiced at this just ending, so typical of the downfall of a negative character in fascinating book stories. A lot of things had happened recently, but unfortunately, Zijin was just bedridden, because after the competition, every tendon and muscle in his body hurt terribly, and he couldn't move. Lying in complete inactivity, he reflected anxiously on the many important exams he had missed, but hoped that there was no such thing as staying back for a second year in this world. Suddenly, the window opened with a slight creak, and the intrigued hero looked with undisguised curiosity at the mysterious guest who had suddenly appeared. The young man was genuinely surprised to see the Empress herself once again at the dizzying height of the third floor of his humble room. She deftly and gracefully climbed inside, laughing infectiously and playfully calling herself the inimitable, agile Helian Linlin. At his perplexed question about the reason for such an unexpected visit, the angry girl called him an egregious brute and jokingly began to kick him lightly. After calming down a bit, she sternly reminded her to carefully observe palace etiquette, knowing her true high-ranking personality. Writhing in acute pain after the playful blows and grueling competition, the embarrassed lad began to apologize sincerely to her majestic highness. The girl crouched down beside him, about to say something, but the young man saw her underwear and sweated with embarrassment. Looking up with a confused look, he was surprised to learn that she had specifically come to congratulate him on his brilliant victory, having decided to visit in person after learning of his pitiful condition. Interestedly, the lad asked if she had sneaked in here again, for at the palace her guards would again raise the alarm. But despite the danger, she entered the subject's position and came. A disgruntled Hellion said that if he talked to everyone like that, he would never get any girl's favor. The young man laughed, asking if it was that bad, and maybe she would give him some sort of title to make it easier to get girls. The Empress wryly mocked the naivety of the young man, saying that even with a high-profile title, he would remain a rustic in the eyes of the refined girls of the capital. She stood up, crossing her arms over her chest, and added that even if she gave him a high title, no worthy girl would look in his direction. Is the situation really that hopeless? Do I really have no chance at all? The frustrated young man asked, calming down after the humorous altercation. Laughing, the Empress sat down beside him again and told him not to be afraid, for if he was really not needed by anyone, she would gladly take him to her palace. Frowning, the embarrassed boy replied that he didn't want to get into the palace that way at all. Suddenly, a caring Lin Bo came silently to the door of his cozy room, knocked politely, and gently warned him of her imminent entrance. Frightened by the knocking, the Empress demanded shelter, but the young man, explaining the lack of suitable places, suggested that she leave by the same route, to which she objected, pointing out the dangerous height of the third floor. Lin Bo, radiant with joy, entered the room, and upon seeing Shi Jin sprawled out on the bed in the empty room, she said his name affectionately. "Lin Bo, is that you?" the young man asked with feigned surprise, secretly fearing the discovery of the hidden Empress. The girl apologized for the late visit, citing an abundance of things to do, and with an understanding nod, Saijin mentioned the rumors regarding the influx of students in their dojo. Confirming the employment, Linbo noted that the situation was gradually normalizing, and her father had already started training new followers. Suddenly remembering the errand, Lingbo reported that Hua Yi had handed over the medicine for Jin and began to retrieve it from her pocket. Explaining the purpose of the pain relief medication, she unfolded a note from Hua Yi with instructions for use, which included advice about light massage and a hint about taking a chance. Linbo's face was flushed with embarrassment, which did not escape the guy's gaze as he inquired about the cause of her confusion. After struggling a bit with her emotions but still feeling awkward, Lingbo hesitantly asked Jin to take off her clothes. The Empress, still hidden under the cramped bed, was silently seething with rage at hearing all that was happening, for she had come first, and it was her underwear that the young man had seen. The young man jumped up fearfully on the bed, writhing in pain, and asked perplexed as to why he had to take off his clothes. Linbo, noticing his discomfort, gently explained the need to apply a healing ointment on his body. The guy started to awkwardly recoil, suggesting alternatives, but the girl insisted on her decision. "It's my duty to you," Linbo said with slight embarrassment but firm determination in her voice. Shijin obediently began to undress, exposing a muscular body covered in scars from past battles. Touching his back, the girl felt the strength of the muscles, evidence of long and hard training. Massaging gently, Linbo asked about the strength of the pressure, to which the guy replied, feeling relief in his muscles. The Empress, hidden under the bed, covered her face with her hands, realizing the ridiculousness of her position. Grateful for the help, the young man took Linbo's hand, saying that he was already feeling much better. The girl reminded me that there were still legs left that needed treatment as well. Fearing the detection of the Empress, the guy turned around abruptly and said he could put them on himself, frightening the girl who opposed self-medication because of the possibility of doing it wrong. From the sudden movement of the guy, the girl lost her balance and fell right on top of him, ending up on the bed with him. Hurriedly getting up, Linbo apologized and worriedly asked if she had hurt him. He replied that it was nothing, and then the girl asked him not to refuse her help, for it was the only thing she could do for him now. Finding himself in an incomprehensible pose, C realized that he urgently needed to calm down and think about something boring, such as a problem about the area of a circle. At this time, Linbo got up and asked him what he thought of her. The young man quickly began to voice that he thought she was a very smart and good girl, who not only had a high level of martial arts skills, but also helped her father, who was undoubtedly very proud of her. She started making excuses that she was doing all this because she had to protect their dojo and she had no talent, because if the guy hadn't saved them back then, they wouldn't exist anymore. The guy began to encourage Linbo, saying that perseverance would lead her to great achievements. He reminded her of her victory over Gao Chen as proof of her strength and ability. "Should I have more faith in myself?" the enthusiastic girl asked hopefully. Sijin advised her not just to believe, but to be proud of herself, emphasizing the advantage of their youth, adding that constant training would help her overcome any difficulties and defeat strong opponents. Linbo, surprised by the wisdom of his words, noticed with a smile that he was speaking quite like an adult. Thanking the young man, the girl snuggled into his shoulder, seeking support and comfort. Gathering her wits, Linbo prepared to say something important, while looking at Jin directly in his eyes. Suddenly, the door swung open and the princess entered the room without warning, breaking the intimate moment. Seeing the half-naked Zijin, she turned away, but managed to ask about the reason for his inappropriate appearance. The princess sat down next to him, explaining that she had brought some notes and inquired about the young man's well-being. Linbo, hiding under the bed, was astonished to find another unexpected guest there. Helion quickly interrupted Linbo's attempt to address her formally, covering her mouth with her hand. After realizing the complexity of the situation, the pale Zijin realized that he was in an extreme predicament. Zijin, the son of spiritual gods, was reborn in this world after being killed in his previous life under the wheels of a truck. His soul gained a new body, following the destined path of becoming a great warrior. Sitting on the bed with Mujilan, the young man pondered how to get out of the situation with the two girls hiding under the bed. He thought about pretending everything was fine and calling everyone over to play mahjong, but remembered that it wasn't in this world yet. The guy decided to tell the rules of the game, confident of its popularity, and envisioned opening an establishment with drinks, girls, and mahjong, setting up a worldwide competition. Immersed in fantasies, the young man did not notice the bewilderment of the princess sitting next to him, and then planned to teach demons to play this game, so that everyone competes, figuring out relationships. Concerned by the boy's strange appearance and behavior, Mujilan touched him, asking if he was okay and had a fever. But he shouted that there would be no wars and deaths then, scaring her. With a startled gasp, the girl jumped up, and the notes that were lying on her lap sprinkled. Bending down to pick up the papers, she rebuked Zijin for scaring her. The guy realized that the princess was about to spot the hiding girls, and he would be finished. As it happened, Mujilan leaned over and saw them, and the young man was already mentally saying goodbye to his life. It was pointless to hide any further, and everyone began to get out of their hiding places. When asked by the princess about what was going on, Linbo was the first to say that she helped the guy apply the ointment Hua Yi had given him. Mujilan asked if he couldn't apply the ointment on his body himself, putting Linbo into a stupor, while in the background, the empress giggled. For this tone immediately gave away the princess. An angry Zijin blamed the empress for the situation. Helion asked in surprise, questioning if he really blamed her for everything that was going on. Mujilan, noticing the stranger, asked Zijin who she was, shocked at the princess's ignorance. The young man introduced the empress as Her Majesty. The frightened Mujilan started to bow, but in response she heard that they were not at an official reception, so they would do without pleasantries, and besides, she was a princess of a neighboring kingdom. When asked about the reason for Empress Zijin's visit, he only shrugged his shoulders in bewilderment. About to culturally cut in on the princess's conversation, the empress coughed to get everyone to shut up and pay attention to her. When that happened, she explained that Zijin was special and she had an errand for him, so she hoped that everything that happened here would stay between them. The surprised Mujilan queried about the peculiarity, but the empress said that the young man would explain it himself. Helion then turned to the standing Lin, saying that she had planned to meet her father in addition to that, and asked her to escort her out. The latter bowed and said, Of course, Your Majesty. As they left, Linbo handed the princess the medicine and asked her to help their mutual friend. When the empress and Lingbo left, Mujilan returned to the young man who wanted to explain the empress's words, but she said to apply the ointment first. While giving a massage, the princess noticed the young man's good shape and rebuked him for flirting with girls. With a smirk, the main character asked if she was jealous of the other girls. The princess reminded the importance of studying to achieve the rank of spiritual deity, hinting at her progress. Calmly and without any tension, Zijin said, Why not, since his parents are spiritual masters? Entering the dojo, the girl watched with interest as the new students practiced. Linlei noted with deep reverence that the impressive influx of disciples was an undoubted merit of Her Majesty. The Empress strongly expressed the need to curb the Zhao family's ambition, which had recently overstepped its bounds. Mr. Lin was quick to say that he was only a swordsman and was not versed in such political matters. Your remarkable constancy is admirable and surprising, remarked the shrewd Empress with a slight irony. She commanded the training process of the elite warriors with authority and authority, ignoring the master's obvious doubts. Linlei inquired with poorly concealed annoyance about the true purpose of her unexpected and persistent visit, not believing that she had just come to see his life. At the old fence of the dojo, Helion cautiously and as if casually asked about Lu Xiao's mysterious northern journey. After a long, tense pause, the Empress asked directly and forcefully about the master's unconditional loyalty to his wayward apprentice. Linlei respectfully bowed his gray head and firmly affirmed his unwavering loyalty to his mentor's duty and principles. Linlin turned away from him with the realization that in a way he was right, and there was nothing to scold him for. Gracefully seated on the bench, she detailed the extensive search for a miracle medicine to cure him undertaken by Xie Yi and Ruin Day. The experienced Mr. Lin took a deep breath and admitted that he had already almost resigned himself to his unenviable situation. The Empress ranted excitedly about the critical importance of his recovery in the face of impending global catastrophe. The experienced master instantly realized that such a high person would not appear without a good reason, and the first thing that came to mind was a demon invasion. She hinted cryptically that there were creatures in the world far more dangerous and insidious than the demons they knew. Perhaps the Empress was referring to the half-crazed Gao Chen, who at this moment was violently smashing everything around him in a fit of uncontrollable rage. A counselor standing nearby urged the enraged Gao to keep his composure and dignity in the face of his subjects. Gao Chen thunderously slammed his fist on the massive table and angrily exclaimed that his shameful expulsion from the school had irreparably tarnished the clan's honor. Suddenly, the mysterious girl who appeared on the doorstep said, in an ingratiating manner, that the wretched school was unworthy of educating such an outstanding student. Chen, still seething with anger and unwilling to communicate, abruptly turned around and rudely asked who she was and why she had shown up. The stranger, smiling enigmatically, introduced herself as Bi Luo, but immediately added that many people knew her as Pearl. Looking carefully at the girl, Chen couldn't hide his astonishment when he saw an aura of rank, 9 strength emanating from her. After the healing massage, Zijin felt an unprecedented surge of strength, largely due to the miraculous Hua Yi medicine. Suddenly, someone lightly touched his shoulder. Turning around, he saw the princess asking about the recent massage with a sly smile. The young man, somewhat confused at saying good morning, was acutely aware of the possible tension in their relationship after recent events. Lin Yun jokingly hit Zijin with a rolled-up outline, and ironically wondered if he thought he was untouchable to the teachers. The guy parried with a disarming smile that every school has a special student who gets away with a lot. With a sly grin, the teacher chagrined at the lad, assigning him the task of practicing combat due to sudden fatigue, assuring him that the young man was up to the task. The stunned Zijin started to ask questions, but the cunning teacher had already hurriedly departed, leaving him at a loss. The young man, sweating nervously, realized the gravity of his assigned duties, while his friends, chuckling, promised to see him in class. In class, the wily teacher introduced his replacement, Xie Jin, as a recently recovered but already ready for new challenges. He announced that anyone could challenge the newly minted teacher to a duel to hone his fighting skills, and went to rest. As he left, Teacher Gan turned to the students and added that everyone could use any weapon, even a stick, except for the new teacher. Excited pupils challenged the newly minted teacher to a duel. Sijin visibly tensed up, fearing the possibility of a massive attack from his classmates. The princess curiously asked Lin Yun about his intention to participate in a mass attack on his friend, but he resolutely refused, preferring a fair one-on-one duel. Lin Bo noted everyone's enthusiasm, and Hua Yi attributed it to the rare opportunity to fight a strong opponent. The intrigued Lin Yun was eagerly anticipating to see Ziejin's full strength with the application of impressive spiritual techniques. The determined young man gathered his wits and accepted the challenge, preparing for a difficult battle against the excited and eager-to-win students. The enthusiastic students, summoning a variety of magic, approached their newfound teacher cautiously and expectantly. Observers noted the seriousness of the rivals, but doubted their chances against an experienced friend with practice, not just theory. The first attacking student, without thinking long, used a rather powerful third-level technique called Fireball. But he didn't even have time to fully apply it before a faster and more agile opponent, Lightning, grabbed his elbow. Due to the active magic in the guy's hand, when he twisted his elbow, the fireball rushed towards the frightened students, causing them to panic. It was definitely the right decision on their part, as a powerful flaming ball exploded very close to them. The teacher looked very seriously and sternly at the defeated opponent, and firmly said that he had completely lost in this fight. Letting go of him, the confident young man began to rapidly create magic for his unconditional victory in the battle. One of the students, who was watching all this closely, decided to take the chance and go on the offensive. She attacked with electric discharge, arrogantly assuming that the teacher would not have time to react. To her amazement, he easily deflected the attack and used the water flow technique, creating a solid cage of churning water from which she could not escape on her own. Sijin continued to use a variety of first-level techniques, applying the dangerous and sharp ice discs, for example. While the teacher was distracted by the caught student, the other two used powerful third-level techniques. But the young man prudently used ice discs, repelling the stealthy attack. Sensing the impending insidious attack in time, he deftly tossed them high up and was able to blind the brazen attackers for a while. When the stunned students finally opened their eyes again, there was no one in front of them. They couldn't understand where their rival had gone so suddenly and without a trace. They didn't have to look for him for long, though, because one frightened student shouted loudly that he was already standing behind them. Before they could react to the warning, the students found their opponent behind them, who grabbed them by the shoulders and grinningly announced their utter defeat. The astonished disciples were amazed by Sejin's unrivaled skill and did not hide it, and his astute friends noted his brilliant tactical approach to combat. Lin Yun speculated that the experienced teacher probably expected the talented young man to take a completely different approach to battle. Satisfied with his convincing victory, Ziejin suddenly noticed the strange, puzzled expressions on the other disciples' faces. The impressed classmates sincerely expressed their deep respect, unanimously recognizing the young man's clear superiority in strength, agility, and intelligence. A student who had time to fight the newly minted teacher and was in the cage noted the strangeness of their fight. All the students agreed with her words, and the confused young man didn't know what else to add. He assumed it was because he didn't use high-level techniques. Lin Yun and Mu Jilan approached him, saying that from what they saw, the young man spent a lot of time practicing techniques. The curious Hua Yi suddenly inquired at what young age the brave Zijin first went on a dangerous monster hunt. The hero, smiling, said he thought he was about 8 years old, as if knowing that was too early and he was special. The people around him turned pale at this information, because at 8 years old, being in the forest with monsters on your own is insane. The guy wondered if he was being pitied after hearing everyone talk about how he, poor guy, was having a hard time. The princess astutely noted the significant difference in approach to martial arts training between their countries and Saijin's methods. The surprised young man could not understand the widespread disregard of students for basic but effective low-level techniques. The student admitted that she thought water flow was a childish technique, incapable of stopping electric discharge, but merely designed to feel spiritually powerful. The young man began to explain that current needs a good conductor, and air is not suitable for it, so he used water flow. But after scratching his head, the hero decided that it was too complicated for them and suggested that he first explain the basic principles of combat. He said that higher-level techniques allow for more damage, but require more time and effort to prepare, as spiritual techniques require combining one's spiritual power with natural ones. The more advanced techniques of the third level require the concentration of more natural force than the techniques of the first level, and thus more time and effort. However, people with a high level can quickly use even the beginning techniques. The disciple, puzzled yet understandingly, voiced his speculation that this was why Jiejin was able to apply his techniques so quickly. The young man explained that his level was higher, so it took less time for him to use the first level techniques than the third level techniques for them. But he didn't use a high-level technique to defend himself from the possible attack of the remaining two. These words made the students very frightened, which was clearly visible from their pale faces and widened eyes. He added that, in addition to quick creation, low-level techniques have other trump cards that should not be neglected, because the most important thing is not strength, but use at the right time, which is the basic principle of combat. Saying that each technique has its own use, he created a fire on his hand and advised him to study the foundation deeper before using complex techniques. After all, it is possible to make the flame flare up much stronger, and he created a wind in his other hand, showing an example of what he said. But if you create a vacuum, the flame will immediately go out because the elements react differently with each other. Inspired by their new knowledge, the energetic students immediately began practicing the techniques they had just learned with enthusiasm. The newly minted teacher watched with delight, happy that he was able to teach his classmates something new. Teacher Gan praised the boy and said that he should become a teacher, promising to talk to the principal, causing the young man to turn pale and fearfully asked if the mentor was mocking him. While they were, Lin Yun, who approached, decided to explain everything concisely and very clearly, suggesting, "Let's fight!" The protagonist looked at his friend incredulously, as if doubting the adequacy of his words, and asked if he was joking. His comrade replied with unwavering determination in his gaze that he was absolutely serious and would not miss such a unique opportunity to compete. Lin Yun warned that, unlike the other students, he had been honing his skills since childhood, so don't expect to defeat him easily. The resourceful Ziejin asked Gao with a pointed tone for permission to use his favorite sword in the upcoming battle. The teacher yawned and firmly rejected the young man's request, genuinely wanting to see his new, unknown techniques. The enemy said that the hero must surely know of his strength, the element of ice, and created sharp ice cones. The princess asked with lively interest about the intricacies and peculiarities of the element of ice. She watched the battle closely, trying to unravel Zijin's mysterious element. The young man pondered as he created ice discs, thinking that the cone-shaped ice of the enemy increased the damage and speed of the technique by easily overcoming air resistance. Shijin pointed out that it was only worth it to slightly affect the opponent's ice, and he would immediately change trajectory. Lin Yun noted the unusual use of ice instead of fire to repel the attack. He was impressed by how easily Zijin was able to find the weakness of his technique. The enemy, shrouded in a shimmering aura, warned that fighting him would require serious mental effort. The young Lin Yun admitted with a sly grin and undisguised pride that he had borrowed an interesting technique from Xie Jin. What the protagonist asked in surprise when suddenly a swift ice bullet flew towards him. Lin Yun held another bullet in his hand and looked at it admiringly, saying that it was just as Zijin said, fast, easy, and efficient, and suggested that he name the technique. Zijin, slightly embarrassed, explained that he usually referred to this effective technique simply as ice bullets. A friend approved the name and, announcing the new technique, fired a whole series of ice shells at the enemy. As he tried to dodge, the young man was angry at copying the technique and was amazed at the speed of mastering it, realizing Lin Yun's strength. The less agile Zijin, while avoiding the attack, was accidentally hit by an ice bullet that immobilized his leg. Unable to move, the guy decided to try to attack his opponent from behind and, creating magic, directed it at the back of his friend standing in front of him. The princess watching this was amazed, for this was her style of fighting. Lin Yun created an icy defense and explained that he had studied Mujilan's style perfectly, rendering Zijin's techniques ineffective. Linbo, watching the exciting battle with admiration, couldn't hold back an exclamation about the guy's incredible strength. Teacher Gan pointed out that without the sword, Zijin's strength has diminished, but in spiritual techniques, the opponents are equal. The teacher admired Lin Yun's innovative technique, deciding to include it in future ice element textbooks. The ice element allowed Lin Yun to completely control the battlefield, immobilizing his opponent's leg with an ice trap. Shijin realized that the cold strengthened the ice, but also made the wind more powerful, so he created a wind defense against the ice bullets. With this multifunctional technique, the young man planned not only to defend, but also to conduct powerful crushing counterattacks. Seeing that he was once again unable to cause damage to his opponent, the guy decided to prepare for an elemental mixing attack. The improved wind power began to help, and she began to break the ice shield. The princess was surprised that this second-level technique was more in line with the third level in terms of strength. The teacher, Lin Yun, seeing the cracking shield, warned Zijin to prepare a decisive strike. The young man used a new technique, the protagonist, to show the real power and see what he could do with it. Linbo and Hua Yi were amazed at the power of the fifth-level techniques used in the battle. Shijin decided to use the second-level fire stream technique, which began to mix with the flow of wind. Linbo wondered if the combination of fire and wind could resist the element of ice. The princess noticed that the ice bullets had greatly weakened the fire attack. And level 2 technique, electrocution, shouted the guy, concentrating the energy in his palms. The powerful electrical discharge slammed into the enemy's shield with a deafening crackle, causing it to crackle. Mujilan exclaimed at the destruction of the defense, but the teacher remarked that it would no longer affect the outcome of the battle. Lin Yun shouted, "Victory is mine!" and raised his hand upwards, controlling the huge hammer above him. The disciples in the courtyard were astonished when they saw Lin Yun's fifth-level technique performed. The young man's opponent, still holding his hand up and holding the hammer, asked if he was going to give up. The guy smugly replied so that the opponent wouldn't even think about it, because he was much faster and had already finished preparing his attack, so only he should surrender here. Mujilan shouted to Teacher Gan that they were going to kill each other and hoped that he would stop them. Thoth mouthed for her not to worry, for he was in control of the situation and continued to watch the battle. Lin Yun couldn't hold back, so he lowered his hand, followed by the hammer, preparing for the strongest impact on the ground. Shijin quickly applied the fireball technique, aiming it at the remnants of the enemy's ice shield. Under the influence of the fire, the shield began to melt rapidly, losing its strength and protective properties. A powerful hammer blow finally shattered the shield, scattering shards of ice in all directions. A thick cloud of dust enveloped the battle site, hiding the fighters from the gaze of the anxious onlookers. The frightened princess began to scream, trying to find out if her friends were all right. When the smoke began to clear, everyone saw the teacher carrying both students out of the dueling area. After all, if something happened to the strongest students, he would be in trouble. Lin Yun said that Zijin's attack was faster, so Teacher Gang saved him first, in which case it could be considered that he had won. With a smile, the hero muttered that the opponent was very strong anyway and shook hands with his friend. A frightened Mujilan was the first of her friends to run up to the guys and ask if they were okay. Gan happily imagined that, because of such outstanding students, he would definitely become the teacher of the year. The back slope of the majestic mountain, at the foot of which the famous Royal Training Academy was located, was striking in its beauty and grandeur. The Royal Training Academy is located near a mountain range called the Demon Mountains. Due to the large amount of spiritual power in the atmosphere of the range, there are many demonic creatures that live there, hence the name of the mountains. Legends say that in the heart of the ridge, where no man has ever set foot, there are demons of the 9th and even 10th level. Although the academy is close to the mountains, there is less spiritual power in the surroundings than at the top. So the demons near the school are weak, and there was only one level 5 creature dwelling in the mountains to control the rest. This place was the scene of the entrance examinations every year, and the order established here was never disturbed. But nothing lasts forever, and when Zijin killed the only level 5 demon, the rest of the inhabitants of these places descended into chaos. The previous ruler of the mountains, a level 5 demonic being, had faithfully served the academy for over 300 years, which was longer than most teachers, and had never caused any trouble. The news of his death caused concern for most of the faculty. To prevent the atmosphere in the team from deteriorating, the academy organized a big picnic for the teachers, and they, giving in to the fun and alcohol, completely forgot about their worries. Only the headmaster still realized the danger of the situation. Without their king, the rest of the creatures, fearing the students, would leave the area, and the academy would not be able to hold the annual entrance exam. The principal was at a loss, for the centuries-old tradition of the examination could not be broken while he was in charge of the academy. He couldn't even send someone to find a new high-level creature, since unless it chose a new habitat on its own, it would simply run away after being forcibly brought in. His musings were interrupted by his teacher bursting into the office with the news that a new level 5 demonic creature seemed to have taken up residence at the academy. With a note of admiration and hope, the principal said, "Really? Hurry up and show it to me." Coming to the forest, the principal could not believe his eyes, for he met the teacher said that there were evolved demonic beings in nature that used the spiritual power of the atmosphere, and they were much more dangerous than ordinary ones. But the teacher added that some areas of the Demon Mountains had yet to be treaded by humans, so it was foolish to think that new types of demonic creatures would no longer be discovered, while Zijin was busy drawing without listening. When asked by the princess why he wasn't listening and drawing, he replied that he was bored, so he decided to do his little invention. Upon seeing the layout, Mujilan, barely holding back tears from realizing her friend's genius, exclaimed, "You call this a small invention? It looks grand." The young man nonchalantly declared that he was unlikely to need it anyway, for he had drawn it out of boredom. But, laughing, he added that if he did create the thing, he could sell it to some country for huge sums of money and become the richest man on the planet. While the princess sat frowning in incomprehension. Suddenly, instantly transformed, she asked if Zijin would be free after class. The guy replied, "Sure," wondering if his girlfriend wanted to ask him out, and was glad he had finally waited for it. The teacher interrupted their conversations by saying, "Ahem, ahem," and reminding them that whispering was forbidden in class and silence was required. Embarrassed by the remark, the girl faded her gaze, and the guy, smiling, scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Meeting after class in the courtyard, the young man was curious as to why she was calling him. Mujilan admitted that since they met, there was one issue that had been plaguing her that she wanted to hear his opinion on. Shijin replied that he would try to help, though he wasn't sure he could, and thought that she probably wanted to confess her love to him, longing to hear the cherished, "I love you," and give a positive answer. The princess, gathering her courage, blurted out, "Please help me become stronger." The surprised boy asked if that was it, and the girl continued, reminding him that he knew of her innate wind elemental's weakness in dealing damage, but she had been studying it since childhood. With a change in his face, Zijin tried to understand why the girl was obsessed with battles, and asked if she knew how to develop her strength, since wine battle tactics were not as varied. Mujilan agreed that she should follow the manuals and raise her spiritual power to master high-level techniques. But after his fight with Lin Yun, she realized that she was using even the techniques she knew incorrectly. She admitted that she had been thinking about it for a few days, trying to solve the problem herself, but without success. So she sought his advice. Embarrassed, adding that she hoped not to seem too brash, the girl heard the young man say that they, who had agreed together to reach the rank of spiritual majority, were God sent to help each other. He noted that although Wynn's techniques were weak in dealing damage, she had already solved that problem by creating her own Arrow of the Gods technique. The guy said she had no problems in that direction, but an even bigger weakness of Wynn techniques was their uselessness if the enemy got within a certain distance, so he advised her to work on her mobility. Jin advised the princess to focus on improving long-range techniques, ignoring melee combat. Knowing his friend's diligence, he imagined her turning into a muscular fighter, which didn't appeal to him at all. The thought of how pumped up she would become made his face change, and he began to imagine fighting her off while the girl looked at him like a fool. The princess pondered aloud on ways to increase her mobility in battle. The young man thought about it and suggested that she learn to fly using the characteristics of the element of wind. Although it was possible, but such a technique would take too much of her spiritual power, so he should think hard, for there should clearly be a worthwhile idea in his head. Then the princess voiced her thought. If she needed to increase her mobility, maybe she should just ride a horse during battle. The girl explained the benefits of horseback riding, especially considering her steppe background. The young man suggested using a fast demonic creature instead of a horse, planning the search for tomorrow. The next day they did, though the girl called all her friends to go, though the guy hoped they would be alone. The princess justified the crowdedness, but the young man worried about scaring away demonic creatures. Linbo admired Zijin's hunting expertise, not realizing his intention to tame rather than kill the demon. Lin Yun Huayi bragged about the prepared picnic with alcohol, which surprised and slightly worried the hero. Lin Yun noticed that Ziejin had thoughtfully brought a weapon with him. The sword suddenly came to life, happily commenting on the composition of the group and offering a choice of halves. A sudden mysterious sound from the mountains caught the attention of the entire company, making them wary. Lin Yun warily noticed that the sounds were being made by the numerous demonic creatures lurking in the mountains. Mujilan was perplexed about the return of demons after Xie Jin defeated a strong level 5 creature. Huayi shared a rumor from her teacher about the appearance of a powerful new demon that attracted the others. Linbo puzzledly inquired about the level of the new creature, marveling at her inability to detect it. The young man cautioned his friends to be careful, especially if the creature surpassed level 5. Unbeknownst, Lu Qing, the medicine teacher, was patiently waiting for the water for tea to boil by the fire. The headman Lu Bing reported successful wound healing and a favorable prognosis for the patient's physical recovery. However, the victim, seeing the director enter, apologized guiltily for his oversight. Li Xian thoughtfully noted the increased threat from the demonic creatures and suggested temporarily restricting student access to the danger zone. Suddenly, a disturbing premonition gripped the principal, making him frown and tense up. Intuition told the headmaster that Zijin had gotten himself into trouble again. The friends walked carefree through the forest, enjoying the companionship and the beauty of the surrounding nature, unaware of the impending danger. The idol, assuming Huayi, shouted a warning to the group about the creature's deceptive appearance. Xijin Huayi, after watching Lin Yun, the nimble cat deftly dodged the attack, and the icy projectiles crashed into the ground. Xijin, with a lightning-fast climb up the tree, the cat left her friends stunned. Settling, Lin Yun sensed the cat's disdain, and Linbo noted its uncommon intelligence. The prince, after briefly watching the humans, the cat took off into the woods, and the friends rushed in pursuit. Chasing after the animal, Zijin suspected that the cat was intentionally leading them somewhere, despite its clear superiority in speed. Suddenly, the girl turned her friend's attention to the unnaturally wilted trees, sensing danger. Huayu, taking the antidote, the princess speculated that the cat had led them to the habitat of other demonic creatures. Mujilan Shijin, a fright, Lin Yun shouted out, "Watch out!" putting out his hand as if blocking the path of his friends walking behind him. He pointed. The friends rallied in a circular defense, supporting each other and repelling the attacks of the many snakes. Shijin surprisingly asked the sword about the warning, but it revealed the existence of a more dangerous snake queen. Shijin, after the frightened, the hero barely Lin Yun, the hero asked Linbo, without attracting attention, to hit the snake's scales hard with his sword to test its density and strength. The girl, even if the scales are so strong, even Zijin's special grenades would be useless. Fighting a snake in the open is a very bad idea. The young man tensely wondered where the snake's only weak spot might be. The eyes, the tail, or perhaps the mouth. Zijin cautiously peeked out from behind the ice barrier in a vain search for the lurking cat. He was lucky enough to catch a glimpse of a familiar white hair sticking out from behind a log. It was the same furry animal. Xiejin, smiling, began to beckon the cat with a gentle voice, hoping to gain its trust for the next step. Everyone was genuinely happy, except for the perpetually disgruntled Hua Yi, who rudely called the cat a brazen thief. The affectionate cat gracefully approached the lovely princess, meowing softly and caressing her whole body. Suddenly the miniature fluffy kitty transformed into a truly intimidating, huge, giant cat, causing everyone's amazement. The devoted comrades amicably assured the hero of their full and unconditional trust, ready to follow him. Sijin emphatically instructed the brave cat to distract the formidable snake by any means possible. strongly emphasizing that the outcome of the battle and the overall victory directly depended on her. The shrewd animal understood everything perfectly well and quickly ran to execute this risky plan. The nimble cat taunted the ferocious reptile, skillfully dodging swift attacks and causing the snake to constantly miss. Carefully watching this breathtaking spectacle, Zijin told Linbo to prepare to strike the first apt and crushing blow precisely at the snake's vulnerable eyes. The determined girl, lightning fast, drew her sharp sword and swung rapidly. The enraged snake again failed miserably, unable to catch the fidgety cat. The hero gestured to stop the belligerent Linbo, telling her to delay her attack for a bit, and strictly ordered Hua Yi to greatly strengthen her combat power. Unlike melee warriors and those using natural techniques, Hua Yi is able to skillfully transform his spiritual power to repeatedly enhance others. The young man saw that the cat had cleverly lured the snake right to their ice shelter, and immediately gave Linbo a tentative signal to attack. The girl hit the snake's left eye, and the pain-crazed creature swiftly flew upwards, dragging Linbo with it. Noticing the blind spot of the blinded snake, Zijin ordered everyone to strictly stick to the left side of the reptile. Linbo, balancing on the hilt of the sword embedded in the snake's eye, tried to hold on to its tough scales. While the girl was distracting the snake, Mujilan and Zijin saddled the cat and prepared to execute the second part of the plan. Deftly skipping along the massive, knobby torso of the distraught reptile, the fearless princess threw a mighty, piercing arrow of the gods. From the unbearable pain, the snake opened its toothy mouth wide, trying to devour the annoying people, but now it was the guy's turn. He used a level 4 crushing technique, a huge ice block that crushed the hideous snakehead to the ground. With all his might, Zijin shouted to Lin Yun that it was now his stellar exit. Just in time, the young man exclaimed, activating the huge hammer technique with a wave of his hand. Lowering his hand, he aimed the hammer at the block of stone protruding from the snake's head, delivering a powerful blow. Lin Bo, who was watching the battle from a tall tree, shouted frustratedly that there was no way they could penetrate the super-strong scales. Despite the snake's increasing hissing, the lad urged his friends to trust him, assuring them of the plan's success. Mujilan, gathering all her strength, conjured the god's arrow that pierced through and used the spiral shot technique, aiming it straight at the reptile's open mouth. Patiently waiting for the right moment when the snake's mouth would open again, the determined hero grabbed the grenade, pulled the pin, and took aim. His unerringly accurate throw, and the snake's massive body began to explode in various places, tearing the flesh into bloody shreds. The deafening explosion caused a thick, acrid smoke to cover everything. Zijin and the cat princess hurriedly stepped back, tensely watching the scene. When the choking smoke finally cleared, they were relieved to see the horribly mutilated body of the defeated reptile prostrate on the ground. They scrutinized the snake's motionless body, wary of the slightest movement and preparing for a possible attack. Convinced of their victory over the reptile, the friends enthusiastically raised their hands, loudly celebrating their success. The great Lin Yun and Zijin jokingly remarked that they would rather go to a boring class next time instead of dangerous adventures, making Mujilan standing next to them laugh heartily. Satisfied with their success, the hero rather stated that they had fully achieved their goal, watching the princess affectionately and tenderly stroking the huge, cute cat. Mujilan hopefully asked the cat if it would be her loyal battle partner, and the intelligent animal happily meowed in agreement. Leashing his blissful peace was suddenly disturbed by a frightened teacher running in, who confusedly announced the terrible news that a powerful level 5 demon near the school had been mercilessly killed by Zijin's grenades. At this news, the stunned headmaster dropped the cup with a trembling hand, shattering it. Was the restless Zijin deliberately doing this to spite him? Shijin sat cross-legged on the bed, carefully holding the legendary Oblivion sword in his lap. The young man, through fascinating conversations with the weapon, the guy learned quite a bit about its amazing capabilities and mastered the art of transferring to other locations for productive training, this time in the woods. The first monsters that stood in the way of the brave hero were ferocious demons in the bodies of mighty beasts, against which Zijin used his crowning technique, Devil Moon Ice Stream. Then Zijin diligently and aimingly fired it at the attacking ferocious demons, not giving them even a chance to escape. But soon realizing that the new gun does not take these creatures, the resourceful guy decided to bring a whole new technique to this world. Without giving up hope on his trusty weapon, Zijin used the crushing multiple shot technique, ready to fight to the last man. Having defeated the terrible animals, the smug young man thought, "How incredibly cool I am. I'm getting high on myself." The legendary Lu Xiao emerged from the mysterious forest and offered the young man to fight without guns to test his true skills. Shijin asked in amazement, "How is it that Lu Xiao can talk, after all? They are in the young man's subconscious." The Sword of Oblivion explained that he himself controlled this body, and it would be much harder to defeat him than all the other creatures in this mental world. Shijin exclaimed in admiration that the sword could do such a thing, and then playfully asked if the weapon could turn into some beautiful girl. Sword resented the idea of the young man sleeping with him, even in the guise of a girl. The boy playfully suggested that Sword might have been a beautiful lady before the transformation. In rage, the Sword shouted that Zijin had angered him and would now be turned into a girl as punishment. The frightened young man pleaded to the Sword to stop and let's discuss this, but it was too late. The angry Sword actually kept its menacing word and turned the guy into a beautiful shy girl. The enemy shouted menacingly, "Let's get started!" and swiftly attacked the hero in the form of a fragile girl. The boy began to repel the swift attack with what he had in his hand, a pistol which, of course, could not withstand the blow of the powerful sword and broke in two. Shijin exhaled that it was lucky they were in his subconscious, otherwise he would have had to answer for the broken gun, then drew his sword for defense. The fight was incredibly hot and intense. The opponents fought on equal footing, not yielding to each other. But suddenly, creating a slight pause in the battle, they crossed swords, and the guy realized this was his chance. Lightning fastly grabbing his pistol, Zijin shot straight at the hated opponent's head. The bullet didn't do much damage to the enemy, only knocking him back. But he immediately jumped to his feet and began swinging his sword furiously. Such a daring act infuriated the enemy, and he summoned a whole army of loyal guards to help him. Fearless warriors rushed into battle to defend their formidable lord, ready to fight to the last man. Shijin wouldn't be himself if he hadn't saved some grenades for such an occasion, which he promptly took out and threw into the thick of the enemy troops. There was a deafening explosion. Everything was covered with thick smoke, and the young man, taking advantage of the zero visibility of the enemy, decided to stealthily approach him for a decisive blow. Getting very close to the enemy, Shijin began to summon a mighty fire technique that could incinerate everything in its path. With one crushing blow, he shattered the ice mirror with the reflection of his angry opponent, who watched helplessly at his defeat. Still standing in front of the young man in the guise of a girl, the enemy watched in bewilderment as he concentrated on twirling something fiery in his hand. Meanwhile, Zijin was creating a huge flaming ball technique, promising the enemy imminent doom. Pointing the sizzling orb directly at the enemy, the hero sent it into a swift flight. Stopping only after crashing into a tree, the exhausted opponent said that if Zijin didn't limit himself to close combat techniques, he could easily defeat Lu Xiao himself. The young man replied that instead of praise, he would rather have his real body back soon. Lu Xiao objected that the fight wasn't over yet, as he was still alive, and suggested that Zijin kill him. Shijin perplexedly asked why they would do this, after all. They were only in his subconscious, and the defeated enemy no longer had any strength left to resist. The young man had never killed anyone before, but his mentor argued that a hero had to go through this to gain true power, and it was better to do it here for the first time to be ready for something like this in the real world. Shijin resolutely replied that he would only kill if absolutely necessary, and for now, he did not wish to become a ruthless killer. Sword began to say that the young man was too naive and would one day regret his decision, for it could lead to terrible consequences. Without listening to it, Zijin interrupted the Sword, saying that he had enough advice for today and let his mentor keep it to himself. After all, he was dead tired and hoped for the training to end soon. But it was not to be. The Sword said that the training for today was not yet over, and the difficulty needed to be increased a bit. Suddenly, the Academy Director, Swordsmith Lin Li, and Lord Gao Yuan himself appeared in front of the young man. The terrified hero shrieked, begging for help, and dropped his sword from his lap in terror. The outraged Zijin accused the Sword of sadism for such a prank and tried to break his mentor's knee. The Sword rebuked the young man for being ungrateful and for missing his chance to fight the 10th level warriors. Shijin asked how the Sword had recreated in his subconscious the headmaster and General Gao Yuan, whom he had not fought. The Sword warned against underestimating his experience and admitted that the information from the disciple's memory was enough to fully recreate the opponents. Guy asked about the criteria for dividing warriors into tiers, because the more battles, the harder it is to define them. Sword told him that before warriors were simply divided into strong and weak, and levels were introduced later as a standard for ease of training, citing spiritual techniques from a mixture of spiritual and natural power as an example. The mentor explained The power of a spiritual technique depends on the amount of spiritual and natural energies transformed for it, increased by persistent training. In other words, the more powerful a warrior is, the more power he can put into a technique. And this is called vertical growth. At the same time, if two warriors of different levels try to create the same technique, the higher leveled one will manage faster. This is horizontal development. Shijin impatiently stated that he knew all of this himself, and asked the sword to better explain why there was a need to divide warriors into levels at all. The mentor noted that a warrior's progress will slow down if he continues to practice the techniques of level 3 after reaching level 4, so it is necessary to follow the golden mean. A level 4 warrior attempting to learn a level 6 technique will encounter insurmountable resistance, comparable to an untrained person attempting to lift 250 pounds, which could cost them their life. The first deity, given the spiritual and natural powers of the techniques, divided them into levels for the safety and effectiveness of the warrior's training. This is the main point of such gradation. The mentor confirmed that even mighty warriors, a level below the deities, risked death at the hands of a mere brigand. So the hero should be on guard regardless of his strength and skills. Shrewd Sword imaginatively compared their dangerous world to thrilling movies, emphasizing the reality of the threat to the characters. A tired-looking Zijin cut his mentor short, making it clear that he had understood everything and asked him to stop the lecture, hoping that the sword would finally fall silent. Suddenly, the young man clarified if he had understood correctly that everyone but the deities had to be careful, and wondered who they even were. The sword replied cryptically, if he knew who they were, he wouldn't be a mere blade, and wouldn't put up with Zijin's antics. This is the main secret of the universe. Yawning, the boy offered to finish, complaining of hunger and wishing he could find a princess to get some food. As he approached Mujilan's room, the young man rubbed his eyes in amazement, unable to believe what he saw. The girl's chambers were crammed full of devices and toys for the cat, as if the princess had become a slave to that animal. Caught up, Mujilan slightly startled, she asked if Jiejin had seen Lin Yun, who hadn't been seen at all in the past few days. The young man replied that he had heard that his friend had gone home on some business, and asked in surprise if he had not yet returned. In a rage, Lin Yun shouted out to his companion, clarifying if he had correctly understood that their family should support the Gao family no matter what. Explain to me why, he shouted again to the boy standing at the window, gazing thoughtfully into the distance. You shouldn't talk to me in such a disrespectful tone. You better calm down and have some tea, the brother advised the agitated Lin Yun. Lin Yun tried to object. Brother, I've thought it over, and I believe... But he was abruptly cut off by his angry interlocutor. The one asked the subdued young man very seriously if he hadn't just told him to sip his tea in silence first. His brother wondered if the young man had come home from a distant academy just for this unpleasant conversation. The interlocutor clarified whether he had correctly understood that the stubborn Lin Yun was firmly determined to send the Gao family into retirement at all costs, and persistently asked about the good reasons for such a radical desire. Lin Yong explained that the Gao family, with its high position and responsibility for the protection of the city, was not performing direct duties, but was busy eliminating opposition and countering new forces, making it difficult for the country to develop. The interlocutor praised the political knowledge of the very young student, but considered it insufficient. Lin Yun's face darkened, his entire appearance expressing outright disapproval of the stance he heard from his brother. The latter noticed Lin Yun's obvious displeasure perfectly, but still resolutely continued his interrupted monologue. He said that in Tianming, in addition to the imperial Helian family and their Lin family, there were the Gao family, which controlled security, the Yan family, which maintained the economy, and the Xia family, which controlled the army. Helian said that this structure dates back to the founding of the country, when 5 powerful families united to heroically stop the chaos and jointly formed the indestructible Qianming. Shangbo, the influential head of the Yan family, respectfully picked up the empress's story, adding that they owed all of this to the unparalleled feat of their great ancestors. He continued that the only thing left for the current generation to do is to cherish and tirelessly grow the invaluable family business they have inherited. The empress praised Xiangbo, noting that he was the only one capable of so skillfully treating the administration of a vast country like a well-oiled family business. The head of the Yan family was not without pride in revealing that their illustrious family has successfully run numerous businesses in a variety of key industries across the country from generation to generation. The empress noted that their two families have historically enjoyed a strong, mutually beneficial relationship. But with the Gao family, things are not so good. Today, The importance of internal defense had decreased due to the peaceful life of the people. In addition, the Gao family hadn't produced any outstanding personalities in a long time, and General Yuan had barely reached only the 9th level. Lin Yun perplexedly asked why the Gao family couldn't, like the enterprising Yan and Xia, try to poach talented young fellows from other families. The income and warriors of the adjoining families eventually belonged to the Yan and Xia families, but their own warriors must be raised themselves. The relative pointed out an interesting fact. The strongest melee warrior of recent years was born in the oppressed Lin family. Although Gao Yuan was the same age as Ling Lei, he had always lost to him as a child. Brother continued that, at the founding of the country, the Gao and Xia families, who provided external and internal security, were of great importance to all mankind. Lin Yun's brother ironized Lord Gao, having to solve the problems created by his ancestors for the sake of proximity to the emperor. Lin Yun had no way of understanding if the Gao family was really in such an unenviable position, then why support it? The brother rebuked the young man's short-sightedness, for it was not only the Gao family's problem. The empress sat up straight and turned to Xiangbo, hoping to hear his opinion on the matter that was troubling her. This issue was a crisis of their system of state, the basis of which is made up of 5 noble families. Chief Yan replied that once upon a time when society was weak, the 5 families, by fighting back the external threat and establishing internal order, ensured that people could live safely. Figuratively speaking, they voluntarily became an impenetrable shell, safely protecting a small defenseless chick. A startled Lin Lin timidly asked if she had understood correctly that when the chick community got stronger and wanted to fly proudly, then Shangbo confirmed her guess, finishing weightily, "He will ruthlessly break the shell that restrains him." The frightened Lin Yun muttered that today it was the Gao family. But when would the inevitable turn of the Lin family arrive? Brother asked if Lin Yun wanted Gao's resignation because he was afraid of their revenge on his friend Xie Jin. The young man didn't deny it, adding that Xie Jin was the son of powerful spiritual deities. Lin Yun's brother indifferently speculated about the possibility of killing Xie Jin, who was not a spiritual deity. An anxious Lin Yun asked about the risk of his parents' revenge. He responded by pointing out the wide-ranging consequences of such revenge for all of humanity. He emphasized the link between power and responsibility, recalling their family's duty to be aware of this relationship. Lord Gao Yuan, immersed in important written matters, was working intently at his massive desk. An unexpected knock on the study door interrupted the Lord's musings, and the visitor announced the arrival of the Jian and Lin families. Gao Yuan ordered to serve the guests exquisite tea, but cautioned against overzealousness in the treats. The Lord expressed his displeasure at having to do business with less powerful families, pondering their possible requests. Heading towards the waiting guests, Gao Yuan suddenly bumped into his son on his way across the courtyard. Not wanting to engage in conversation, the Lord deliberately ignored his son, walking past without a word. Chen, realizing his guilt, tried to apologize to his father for the trouble he had caused the family. The young man proposed to break the kinship ties, hoping to assuage the emperor's anger over the Lu Xiao incident. Gao Yuan softened, comforted his son, assuring him that he would find a way to settle the problems without extreme measures. Leaving, the Lord advised the offspring to focus on studying with Master Bilu to master the mysteries of the spiritual flame. Gao Chen, watching his father walk away, continued to ponder his words and his role in the family's future. Suddenly, the heir heard a female voice praising Gao Yuan's diplomatic talents, which reawakened his anger. The apprentice turned around sharply, demanding an explanation from the mentor, whose cryptic words had excited him so much. Bailu hinted at the futility of the Lord's efforts, emphasizing that the future of their clan now depended on someone else's will. The master whispered to the apprentice that his personal fate was also threatened by outside interference. After realizing that his teacher was right, young Gao was at first angry, but quickly realized the seriousness of the situation. The young man bent down and asked his mentor to help him become stronger to protect his family. Pearl noted with a slight chuckle that the path to the power would be long and would require serious preparation. She predicted that with hard work, Chen would be able to reach the rank of a strong adept in decades, and led the frowning disciple behind her. Intrigued by his ulterior motives, Chen decided to directly ask about his training goals and future plans. Bai Lu, smiling, inquired the reason for such an unexpected question from her ward. The heir of House Gao expressed suspicion of the teacher's hidden intentions, given her superior strength and sudden appearance. Admiring her student's insight, the mentor nodded approvingly, noting his growing powers of observation. Lin Yun, frustrated by his failed attempt to convince his older brother, slowly wandered through the alleys of the academy, immersed in gloomy thoughts. Suddenly, Zijin, overjoyed by his comrade's return, jumped out from behind the pillar and leaped at Lin Yun in a friendly manner. The classmate jokingly asked what kind of trouble Lin Yun had managed to get himself into during his absence. The pals compared the peculiarities of family relations in noble houses and simple families, noting striking differences. Lin Yun was astonished to learn about the divine origin of his friend's parents, something he hadn't even realized before. Shijin explained that he didn't intentionally withhold this information. It was just that the interlocutor had never been interested in his lineage. Shijin jokingly rebuked his friend and suggested that with such a status, he should have been more omniscient. Putting a hand on Lin Yun's shoulder, Shijin continued to question his friend about the recent events in his family. Lin Yun's mood darkened, and he told his friend about the precarious situation of the Gao family being attacked by ill-wishers after the incident with Lu Xiao. Saijin expressed doubts about the reasonableness of helping the Gao family, citing the risk of worsening relations with other clans and possible negative consequences. Shijin, while recognizing his provincial experience, still noted his deep understanding of aristocratic arrangements and suggested that he trusted the decision of the heads of noble houses to preserve the Gao family. Lin Yun, surprised by his friend's insight, couldn't hold back his laughter, covering his mouth with his hand in surprise. An intrigued Zijin inquired about the reason for the merriment, to which Lin Yun quoted his brother about the burdens of power and the limitations of freedom. Inspired by his friend's reaction, Lin Yun resolutely declared his intention to hold the Gao family accountable for their reckless actions. Sijin, inspired by the idea, expressed his willingness to support his friend. With a symbolic gesture, the friends clenched their fists, ready to face the challenges of high society together. Sijin, frustrated at his powerlessness in the intrigues of the higher nobility, wobbled in his chair, realizing the impossibility of helping a friend without money and influence. The young man, gripped by despair, contemplated using his parents' names to deceive the undecided nobles, hoping to gain an advantage. The empress, who unexpectedly appeared on the windowsill, advised him to abandon the idea, recalling the wide popularity of his pedigree. Saijin, surprised by the sudden visit, inquired about the reason for her presence and how she managed to go unnoticed. Helion jumped into the room and explained that no one would dare spy on her for fear of rebellion. Taking a seat on the bed, the girl warned that she had not come for small talk, but on important business concerning the young man. Xie Jin, slightly amused, inquired about the purpose of her visit and what she wanted from him. The empress asked a direct question about the young man's plans for the Gao family, adopting a casual pose. This unexpected question puzzled Xie Jin, who couldn't understand the true intentions of his high-ranking guest. She explained that the nobles, led by the Li family, intend to preserve the Gao clan, emphasizing the need for a significant force to oppose the decision. Shijin inquired about the possibility of using his true identity, noting the difficulties arising from hiding it. Lin explained that the real problems lie outside of his current capabilities, emphasizing the importance of Linzong as strength and currency in the country, and since the young man is Linsong's son, is his weakness. Helion asked if the young man would be able to withstand the constant scrutiny of multiple rank 9 adepts, causing Zijin to turn pale, not wanting to find out. The girl warned that prematurely revealing his identity would force her to keep him in her harem for protection. The young man was surprised at the mention of a harem, but the empress clarified that there was food, clothing, and a bed much more comfortable than his broken one. Shijin sat down next to her and asked if the empress could solve the issue of the Gao family's survival, but she explained the difficulty of such a solution. Realizing the futility of hoping for the empress, the young man began to analyze the capabilities of his friends in this case. Remembering all, he realized that all are powerless. Helion spoke of the many opponents of the Gao family changing their stance after the Lin family intervened. The empress advised to search for a powerful enough force to oppose the Lin family and attract supporters. She hinted at the importance of ties to the Royal Academy, which puzzled the young man, making him wonder about the influence of the institution. The empress emphasized the great influence of the academy, pointing out the many strong people and its deep roots in Tianming country. Sai Jin expressed concern that such power of the academy could pose a latent threat to national security. Helion enigmatically asked if the young man knew the principal's real name. Her strange behavior was understandable, after all. His name was Helion Tiancheng, and he had a direct connection to the ruling dynasty. Shijin, realizing the importance of the situation, went to the director to request the necessary intervention. The old man doubted the appropriateness of the action, emphasizing the seriousness of the consequences for the state system. The young man explained that the fall of the Gao family could lead to the elimination of the other four noble families. The director had no way of understanding why Jin was willing to risk national stability for the sake of friendship. The young man noted the inevitability of historical change and the failure of the current noble system. He pointed out the selfish interests of the Gao family and their abandonment of their original duties to the state. Jin warned of the decline of the Tianming kingdom and the rise of popular desire for freedom while maintaining the current situation. He emphasized the need for initiative in solving the problem rather than just covering it up. The young man assumed that Empress Linlin had realized the situation before she started looking for an opportunity to change. Jin confidently told the director that all the participants understood the seriousness of their actions. Helian Tiansheng expressed his willingness to support the initiative, but emphasized the need for the consent of the academy's teachers and students. Jin was faced with the task of convincing the student council or finding a way to replace it to advance his plan. Jin was aggressively surprised at the existence of a student council in the academy that he had not known about before. The principal explained that the council is an important self-governing body, electing representatives and participating in the decisions of the academy. Guy realized he could convince the current student council, but was perplexed as to why the principal would hint at the need to replace them. With a mysterious smile, the principal asked if Jin was willing to be the key figure in the upcoming confrontation. One student council member marveled at the personal visit of such an important guest, calling it a hassle. Such a stunned reaction was to Lin Yun's older brother, who no one expected to see in the academy. The student bowed, asking how he could help, and explained that he had only inherited the office of predecessors who had finished their studies and returned to their families, so he dared not change anything. Brother Yuna assured that entrusting him with the student council was the most correct of all the decisions he had made. The representative of the Lin family continued the conversation, hinting at the academy's stance, which the interlocutor should understand without further ado. The student inquired about Lin Yu's plans, leaning slightly and lowering his voice as if he was afraid that they would be overheard. The elder Lin abruptly dropped his hand to the armrest, squeezing it with barely restrained fury, and curtly ordered to teach his younger brother a harsh lesson. The council representative leaned back calmly on the back of the couch and offered with undisguised excitement to enjoy the upcoming performance. Student Council President Chen Qingli, portraying sympathy, pointed out the difficulties the guest was facing because of his unruly younger brother. Also present in the spacious room was Vice President Feng Ming, an earnest young man wearing a sleek monocle watching intently. Accountant Yan Jingjing, a spectacular young woman with unusual pink hair, urged her colleagues to exercise restraint in taking action against the younger generation. Secretary Xia Zhikyu resented the annoying struggles and injustices of the world, which she hated and which made her feel sad. Suddenly, Jin came up to them from the street, waving hello and asking if he was interrupting an important meeting. The irritated student council president, as if the young man had interrupted his stardom, inquired sharply about the identity of the uninvited guest. Lin Yun's older brother, without turning around, immediately introduced Jin as his brother's friend, who had defeated Lu Xiao in the imperial competition. Chen Qingli, who had never heard of Jing before, wondered with poorly concealed irritation why he dared to enter without knocking. The young man, smiling awkwardly and blushing slightly, said he had intended to knock, but found there were no doors in the room. Yan Jingjing irritably recalled that the day before yesterday the president himself, forgetting his key, broke down the door that she had no time to fix, and asked her to save the budget. Upon entering, Jin found himself face to face with the main body of the student council and Lin Yun's influential brother. The accountant mercilessly reprimanded the president, which stunned Jin. He could hardly believe that this powerful person was still a student. Vice President Feng Ming turned to Jin with undisguised curiosity, inquiring about the true purpose of his visit to the student council. Overcome with sudden excitement, the hero began to slowly and carefully formulate the reason for his appearance, but was abruptly interrupted. Lin Yun's brother sitting back, Lin Yun unceremoniously intervened, stating the agreement he had reached with the student council, causing the academy to refuse to support Jin's initiatives. The young man objected, reporting his recent meeting with the principal and the approval he had received, confidently stating that the academy would not side with the opponents. Chen Qingli, without hiding his indignation, expressed extreme surprise at the audacity of Jin, who dared to address the esteemed Lin Yu so disrespectfully. Lin Yu carefully placed the cup on the table and coldly asked him not to provoke him, emphasizing that because of the disagreement between teachers and students, the college would remain neutral, which meant that he would win. Finally turning around, his brother said that despite his status, Jin had no chance of defeating the Lin family. Lin Yun suddenly burst into the tense atmosphere, cheerfully greeting his brother and wondering why he hadn't visited him in the first place. The friend said that after hearing from the young man and worrying that he would fail, he showed up to support him. Lin Yu leisurely rose from his chair, noting that his brother had made a good friend, although he was not happy with his decision. His brother's proud of Lin Yun's courage to challenge him and thinks it was the right decision to send him to the academy. Lastly, he added that he had finished the first game of chess, and to start the second would depend on the abilities of Ziejin and Lin Yun. Chen Qingli, deciding to refrain from commenting, directly addressed Lin Yun and Ziejin, demanding to reveal their future plans and intentions. The friends looked over their heads and confidently declared that, in accordance with the Academy's rules on the conduct of student affairs, they intended to challenge the current student council. The surprised girls looked at each other and wondered if something like this had happened before in the history of the Academy. Si Jin, gesticulating enthusiastically, proposed to form a cohesive team capable of gathering the necessary number of supporters to establish a new student union and challenge the incumbent. Ling Bo, gratefully remembering Zijin's past help, decisively took his hand, declaring her willingness to support his endeavor, causing Mu Jilan, who was jealously watching, to be clearly displeased. The princess, unwilling to give in, also grabbed the young man's hand, emphasizing that Ziejin and Lin Yun were her close friends, whom she was obligated to help in return for their past support. Hua Yi, being cautious, asked if there were additional prerequisites for college students to be able to challenge the current board at will. Sai Jin explained that usually when the student union changes its membership, the new membership itself chooses its successor, but there is an alternative way. Young clarified that they would need the support of at least a third of all students in the college to successfully challenge the student union, instructing Lin Yun to handle this aspect. Sai Jin noted the high reputation of the Lin family at the college, especially highlighting the influence of Lin Yu, brother of Lin Yong, former legendary student union president. Shi Jin smirked as he noted the popularity of their group among the freshmen, emphasizing the youth's love of excitement and willingness to support the initiative against the strict student union, even though most students were unlikely to be interested in their fight against Lin Yu. Lin Yong, upon returning, reported the successful persuasion of the freshmen and the considerable support received, designating the next step to involve the upperclassmen. Xi Jin, thanking his friend for his work, inquired about the details of the information he had received, while Lin Yun quenched his thirst with a cup of tea. Lin Yong explained the importance of martial arts in the academy, suggesting that they demonstrate strength to win the students' recognition and right to challenge. Lin Yun suggested that his friends prepare to fight in the arena against the seniors, emphasizing their key role in the upcoming battles, to which Xiejin asked in surprise at the simplicity of the proposed solution. Lin Yun explained that it was a temporary reprieve to get support and improve their skills before a difficult confrontation with a strong student union. Lin Bo inquired about the strength level of current student union members. Lin Yun, showing interest in his opponent's strength, reported that President Chen Qingli had reached an impressive 7th level, comparable to some teachers of the academy. Vice President Feng Ming is rumored to be a level 6 expert, but his calm nature suggests a hidden potential of level 7. Accountant Yan Jingjing and Secretary Xia Jiqiu, being a year younger than the council leaders, had reached the 5th level of strength. He emphasized that, because of their affiliation with the 4 major families, they could not be considered ordinary 5th-level spiritual and martial arts practitioners. Shi Jin smugly remarked that, with the exception of the president, the strength of the rest of the council members did not seem impressive, not noticing the reactions of those around him to his statement. Lin Bo explained his friend's arrogant statement with his own strength, while Lin Yun pointed out that even the weakest of the 4 council members he mentioned was not inferior to them in strength. Shi Jin pondered the possibility of challenging the student union by position or individually, figuring out the number of victories needed to succeed. Lin Yong explained that a convincing victory, achieving at least 2 wins and 1 draw, was necessary to maintain his position on the council. Guy proposed a plan where he and Lin Yun would challenge the secretary and accountant of the council, securing the necessary victories. Mujilan resented that she and Lin Bo were only extras, although she inwardly recognized the correct strategy. Huai tactfully pointed out the inappropriateness of some of Ziejin's statements, to which the young man hurriedly apologized, calling his words casual. Lin Yun, showing determination, declared a valuable opportunity to fight strong opponents and unwillingness to retreat. The girls unanimously supported the desire to defeat their opponents, showing confidence in their own abilities. Lin Yong, after conducting an assessment, reported that it would take at least 2 months of intensive training to get sufficient support and preparation. Saijin, recognizing the genius of his friends, reminded them to make a public statement in front of the seniors and create an arena for taking challenges. The next day, an impressive crowd of students gathered near the stage, exceeding the organizers' expectation. Shijin came to the podium, admitted his excitement as he recalled his speech at the beginning of the semester, and introduced himself to the audience. Before he could explain the reason for the gathering, the young man was suddenly hugged from behind by the student council president, who also greeted the crowd. The stunned hero pulled back, not understanding what was happening and trying to comprehend his opponent's unexpected behavior. Shijin's friends were stunned by the sudden appearance of the council president, whom no one had noticed until that moment. Chen Qingli inquired with feigned surprise about the reason for the meeting, ironically asking if he had been expelled from the student council. "You don't recognize me because you haven't seen me." Shocked at first sight, Chen Qingli said disdainfully, "Aren't I your brother? In fact, I'm your father's illegitimate son, and older than you." "Call me Big Brother," the young man said cheekily, though it was a lie, given their different last names. The crowd of students froze in confused silence, watching suppressedly as the situation unfolded on the stage. The disturbed atmosphere threw Zijin's friends into confusion, while the princess anxiously watched the young man's every move. Jin, clearly annoyed by the proximity of the student council president, got into a verbal altercation with him, to which Chen Qingli tried to reduce everything to a harmless joke. The young man, playing along, told a made-up story about his father's illegitimate child, hinting at a possible kinship with Chen Qingli and their resemblance in appearance. The student council president, amazed and slightly frightened, queried their supposed resemblance incredulously. Shijin Riley mocked his opponent's appearance, advising him to look in the mirror more often and stop fooling himself. Chen Qingli, appreciating the young man's wit, praised his sense of humor, comparing it to his own. Jin, restraining the impulse to continue the barbed exchange of remarks, inquired about the true reason for the president's appearance. Chen Qingli nonchalantly stated his desire to simply observe the scene, offering to leave if his presence was unwelcome. The young man, after rejecting the offer to leave, continued his speech, beginning with full confidence. "I am Jin, and these are my classmates." He pointed his hand at the friends standing next to him, introducing each in turn. Lin Yun was the heir to a powerful family, Lin Bo was a consummate martial artist, and Mu Jilan was a princess of a distant kingdom. Young announced the decision to form a new student union and demanded that representatives of the current council be summoned to formally announce the challenge. The crowd murmured, realizing the popularity of the aforementioned personalities and the potential power of the new student council, which made Zijin watch the audience's reaction with pride. Jin, realizing the difficulty of gaining recognition from the upperclassmen, declared his willingness to openly accept a challenge from any student in the school to prove his strength. Chen Qingli, ostentatiously applauding, called the idea interesting, but immediately tried to cool the newcomer's ardor. The student body president reminded that a show of force alone is not enough to qualify for a challenge and the necessary number of votes. The young man replied indifferently that he was sure the majority of the students would support his idea. Chen Qingli grinned and hinted at Zijin's misunderstanding of the essence of the student union and the sentiments of the students, which made the guy suspicious of hidden intentions. The president, standing at the podium and raising his hand, urged students to vote for the ability of the boy band to replace the current board. Jin, not hiding his indignation, sharply accused Chen Qingli of trying to manipulate the students' opinions and exert unacceptable pressure on them. However, the young man suddenly stopped, struck by an unexpected sight. Almost everyone present raised their hands in agreement with the proposal of the president of the student council. Chen Qingli, pointing at the crowd with barely concealed smugness, ironically remarked that the situation wasn't that bad, and many people really wanted to shift the current council in favor of the newcomers. The president said with a bitter chuckle that their student union had the lowest level of support in the history of the college, and it was only the losers' lack of courage that kept them in power. Jin, somewhat confused by this turn of events, heard from his opponent that they had unexpectedly easily gained support for challenging the student union. Chen Qingli, while maintaining a semblance of friendliness, advised that he would go to Teacher Wenjin to officially start the trials. Teacher Wenjin Zhengping, who suddenly appeared, exclaimed happily that he had been waiting for such a challenge to the council for a long time, and asked Jin to give him some pleasant surprises. The teacher explained that his department organizes the venue and rules of the competition, ensuring maximum fairness for all participants without exception. Jin, holding back impatience, asked about the date of the first fight. To which Wenjin explained, "Many sites need repair after a long downtime, so the competition will not begin until next month." Hearing this information, the young man inwardly tensed up, remembering Lin Yun's words about the required 2 months of training, and realized with dismay that their training time had been cut in half. Chen Qingli, pleased with the effect he had produced, stated with feigned concern that he had helped ease the newcomers into the challenge, and reminded Zijin of his promise to accept challenges from all comers, adding that he had many friends eager to test their mettle in the duel. The young man was stunned by the unexpected turn of events, realizing that all his carefully laid plans had been disrupted. "This isn't just a tactic, he's a true madman," Xiejin exclaimed, to which Lin Yun remarked with a slight chuckle that Chen Qingli was indeed an outstanding personality. Princess Jilin sighed heavily, noting that it was no wonder why they had found so little information about the student council. Apparently its members were not overzealous in their duties. Linbo offered to focus on improving her skills in the time remaining and indicated her intention to return to the dojo for intensive training. Lin Yun decided to go home to seek advice from his family's experts. Zijin, after thinking about it, clarified whether he correctly understood that in that case, the princess would be training with him. Teacher Gan suddenly appeared and said that he would personally take care of Mujilan's development. After all, it was the teacher's job. He praised Zijin for being strong enough and advised him to pay more attention to college trends, remaining as a decoy for potential applicants. The young man realized the teacher's rightness, but did not understand the reasons for his unexpected help. Teacher Gan, hugging the student, explained that the freshman's victory could contribute to his promotion to class leader. The hero went outside to see his friends off getting ready for an intense workout. Left alone, the young man decided to visit the academy's famous dining hall. The Royal Training Academy was famous for its canteen, which was staffed by true professionals in the culinary arts. This place was considered a shrine in the culinary world due to the first-generation Linzen's concept of forbidding torturing children with food at the founding of the school. The Academy's dining hall attracted some of the country's best chefs, offering a variety of cuisines and even legendary lost delicacies. The openness of the student kitchen attracted young chefs eager to improve their skills, raising a generation of culinary masters. Due to its location east of the imperial capital, the college gained fame as the Oriental Culinary Institute, becoming a center of attraction for gourmets and future chefs. Many students sought to attend college not so much for academic achievement, but for the opportunity to enjoy the fine cuisine of the famous dining hall. Even the prestigious university dining hall was not without its traditional shortcomings. One was the sloppiness of the cooks, who, citing shaky hands, often scattered food when serving it. Shijin, noticing the flying food, deftly caught all the pieces into his plate. Thanking the cook with a smile, the young man assured him that everything was fine. After paying for lunch, Zijin caught the attention of the girl, who sadly thought about having to fight even for food. This girl turned out to be the secretary of the student council, who condemned Zijin for provoking a conflict with the council. "I can't help it, I'm a man with a big appetite. If I don't fight for my portion, I risk going hungry according to local rules," Zijin explained as he stuffed his food down his throat. The young man was surprised to notice the difference in portion sizes between himself and his interlocutor, asking about this differentiation. "Now, what are you unhappy about? Do you have enough money, or are you afraid the cooks will be counted?" the secretary asked, pulling out money for payment. "It's the most sincere, trusting relationship between me and the chef," the girl said, but suddenly changed in her face, as if she were ashamed. The cook waiting to pay also noticed the change in the customer's facial expression, and was upset to learn that she had forgotten her wallet. The kitchen worker did not hesitate to take away the plate of food without hesitation, leaving the secretary without lunch, which caused Zijin to remark on the cruelty of the trust relationship. Realizing that she would remain hungry, the girl looked pleadingly at Zijin, silently asking for help. The young man had no choice but to pay for the girl's order, after which, feeling awkward, they walked away from the food stand together. Xia Zhiqiu thanked Zijin for paying for lunch, calling him a good person and apologizing for her previous negative opinion. Shijin admitted that this was the first time he had been praised, causing a fleeting smile to appear on the girl's face. Shijin sat at the far table, avoiding looking at the secretary eating lunch across from him. But he couldn't bring himself to eat because of the tense atmosphere and the discussions about his intention to challenge the student council. Unable to endure the gossip about a possible relationship with Lin Yun, the young man jumped up, loudly urging those around him to stop or face trouble. Gradually calming down, he suddenly heard the girl ask him if he would give her the piece of meat he was holding with chopsticks, if he didn't want to eat it himself. Before Zijin could even utter a word, Xia Zhiqiu started eating meat directly from his chopsticks, and the young man was indignant that he was going to eat it. Pulling away from the meat connected to her mouth by a string of saliva, the girl asked nonchalantly if he felt sorry for her. Apologizing, she said she thought the young man wouldn't eat the overbite, and offered to let him finish the piece if he wanted. Sijin smilingly praised the girl's appetite and suggested that she eat everything, not wanting to upset her interlocutor and finish it for her. An overjoyed Xiaojikyu gratefully accepted the offer and continued eating from Jijin's chopsticks. Some strange one, thought the hero, observing the unusual behavior of the girl opposite. Xiaojikyu licked her fingers with obvious pleasure, making Zijin assume that she really liked the food. Xiaojikyu explained her relationship to food by talking about her childhood in the frontier army, where food was a strategic resource, and the importance of every morsel to the soldier's survival. Shijin thought about the girl's origin from the Xia family and the possible effect it might have on the relationship between the Xia and Gao families. The young man directly asked Xiao Jikyu if she knew the reasons for their challenge to the student union, wanting to hear her opinion. The girl speculated that the reason could be the disagreement between brothers Lin Bo and Lin Yong regarding the Gao family, which could lead to a conflict affecting everyone around them. Shijin expressed surprise that a member of the warlord family hated battles so much, contrasting with his expectations. Xiao Jikyu, with tears in her eyes, explained that any conflict tends to expand, pulling in more and more people and deepening the hatred between them. The girl emotionally uttered the words war and death, clearly reliving painful memories. Destruction. As a member of the Xia family, I deeply understand that pointless fighting only brings endless misery, Xiao Jikyu finished, with pain in her voice. However, the young man reminded that as long as humans exist, conflicts of interest are inevitable, and such thoughts can only cause pain. The girl agreed, emphasizing the importance of the Xia family's role in this context, much to Ziejin's surprise. The people around them began to discuss how two young people could have such philosophical conversations without paying attention to what was going on around them. One of the people discussing the young man turned to him, asking if he was really the same Zijin. Shijin turned around and wondered if these were the people Chen Qinglin had sent to challenge him. The strangers were quick to explain that they had nothing to do with the student union, calling its members crazy, and admitted that they were only acting because of the benefits promised by the vice president. The young man sighed and offered to go out and solve the problem, remembering that teacher Wenjin had allowed the test to be conducted without teacher supervision. Xia Jikyu, quoting the Xiao family's military regulations, courageously offered to help Si Jin with these guys in gratitude for the treat. Recognizing the girl as the secretary of the student council, the strangers began to retract their words about crazy people, clearly afraid of the consequences. Si Jin, remembering Xia Jikyu's dislike for fighting, offered to deal with these guys himself, so she wouldn't take any action. The secretary explained that although she hates fights, she hates it even more when they happen right in front of her. So if conflict cannot be avoided, she will take action. Quoting the first article of her family's military manual, the girl declared the need to quickly kill one combatant to end the conflict and lunged at the three guys with her spear. From such a blow, a huge hole was formed in the wall of the building, through which Xia Jikyu calmly watched the result of her actions. Turning to the stunned Zijin, the girl warned that once the duel started, she would kill him as soon as possible to end this conflict. Upon hearing of the girl's deed with the provocateurs, the president was at first angry, but then laughed, noting that a simple trick was enough for bragging. The secretary became unbearably embarrassed, and she, barely holding back tears, begged the president to stop laughing. Covering her face with her hands, the girl cried, and Yan Jingjing came over to comfort her, returning her lost wallet and advising her to be more careful. Chen Qingli, while continuing to laugh, expressed disbelief that someone was using the student union's name to provoke, when Feng Ming admitted that he had sent those people himself. The bookkeeper asked if we should continue to send people out for provosting. The student union president advised them to forget about it, explaining that after the commotion Xiao Jikyu made, no one would pay attention to them, and suggested that they wait for an official duel from teacher Wenjin. After he finished, he let the girls go home and asked the vice president to stay. As he passed by, Chen Qingli playfully whispered in his ear, "Take off your clothes." Feng Ming obediently exposed his scarred back at the strict order of the president. Chen Jingjing, standing behind him with his belt, began to furiously punch the vice president, asking who asked him to act on his own. He forbade useless communication with others without his permission and started hitting even harder. Grabbing his hair and pulling him to him, the president said he was not interested in college or student council affairs. There is only you in my life," he uttered, licking the wounds on his subordinate's back. "If you continue to disobey, I'll have to kill you. Do you understand?" he asked, to which the subordinate guiltily replied, "I'm sorry, yes, I understand." A few days later, Zijin met with the secretary of the student council and boasted that after that incident, no one else came to challenge him. The secretary judiciously noted the benefit of judiciously avoiding unnecessary conflict. But a battle between us is still inevitable, right? The young man gently inquired, looking at her carefully. The secretary friendly offered a peaceful friendship in exchange for a voluntary admission of defeat. Teacher Wenjin suddenly appeared in front of them, solemnly announcing that the preparation of the battle venue had been completed. The teacher announced the first battle for the re-election of the student council, clarifying the participation of Secretary Xia Jikyu. The girl, after hesitating a bit, stepped forward and confirmed her participation. The teacher asked Zijin who would fight from his side, since as challengers, they could choose the order of appearance. The young man realized that there had been no news, since his friends had been sent to training, and he didn't know if they would make it in time, or else the first fight would go to him. Linbo suddenly appeared, apologizing for being late due to the long search for the battle site, but luckily she made it in time. As he approached his friend, he asked how the practice went, to which the girl replied to just let him watch her perform. The first victory will be mine, she said gravely, and headed towards her opponent. The secretary, turning to her rival, noted their good trusting relationship with Jiejin. But on the battlefield, strength is paramount in the end, Xiao Jikyu added. The teacher offered a no-nonsense introduction to the stage and the rules of the first battle. Sijin was astonished to see what awaited his girlfriend. They were to fight on a platform above a mass grave with various kinds of weapons sticking out of it. Standing on the war grave, the fighters will fight not for life, but for death, and only one will be the winner. The teacher drew the students' attention to the countless sharp blades in the pit, capable of cutting iron like dirt, posing a fall hazard. Sijin thought that despite the intimidating description, the real arena was a platform on top, big enough to avoid falling. Hearing his reasoning, the teacher turned around and started laughing, for the fall was inevitable. He explained that under load, the bricks of the platform will collapse until there is nowhere to stand. The boy noted the strange flavor of the teacher, looking very happy. The mentor confirmed that the long overdue re-election of the student council is the biggest event for their department, and the guys need to please an old guy like him. He announced that the first to faint and fall off the platform loses, and advised not to throw their lives away, but to surrender in advance if they doubted success. So the girls entered the arena, and the first battle on the soldier's grave began. The secretary again asked her rival if she was willing to give up and avoid a fight. Linbo replied that her swordsman pride wouldn't allow her to lose without a fight. Then I have nothing more to say. Life and death matter, Xiao Jikyu uttered, and they crossed their weapons. After the first strike, Linbo flew back, realizing the strength of the diminutive opponent wielding the heavy halberd as lightly as bamboo. But it's not that I can't handle it, the girl said as she watched her opponent run at her with a weapon. Linbo solemnly said Lin Shenliu and began to slowly draw the shining sword from its sheath. They fought, constantly repelling each other's attacks with different techniques. Sijin's face changed as he noticed Lin Bo starting to crowd Xiao Jikyu. The teacher explained that the Lin Shen style, created by the talented swordsman Lin Li, was a set of full brutality swordsmanship skills combining strength, agility, and elegance, a true master's legacy. The young man noticed that the girl's sword was different from before, and from the style of Lin Shen he had studied, and wondered if Senior Lin Lei had given her any special instructions. The father asked his daughter if she knew why. Despite Lin Shenlu's diligent practice, she had failed to reach the proper height. The frustrated girl said she was just stupid and needed to be enlightened. His father explained that Lin Shenliu was a swordsmanship art tailored to his physical training, and by nature, a weaker daughter could not use the same techniques to unleash the full power of the sword. The girl was upset, for she should have discovered this truth told by her father herself. Her father admitted that he had raised his daughter on his own after her mother's early death, and understood her respect and desire to follow his path perfectly, becoming a swordsman like him, but didn't want to. Lin Le hoped that his daughter would find her own path and become stronger than him. The father said that the sword changes depending on the strength of the wielder, and instead of competing with him in every movement, the daughter should make her movements slow. He added that although her strength would not yet be enough to cut the boulder, her labors had not been in vain, and she already had enough strength to cleave it. Lin Le prompted to listen to the sound of the sword and think about it, not only as his daughter, but also as swordsman Lin Bo. Lin Bo skillfully defended herself against every strike from her opponent, who was displaying the skills expected from the Xia family, guarding the country's borders. Xia Jikyu also tried to fight back skillfully, but her opponent's impenetrable defense prevented her from succeeding. Going through all the thoughts in her head, Lin was sure that she could win now and threw a punch, injuring her opponent. Watching the battle, Zijin noted that Linbo's sword looked more natural than before. During past training sessions, the girl's strength wasn't enough to cut a huge boulder in half while standing against it. Not giving up, she used different techniques, believing her father's words that her current strength was enough to cleave the stone. Closing her eyes and deciding not to confine the sword to her thoughts, she gave all of herself to the sword in her hand, striking but, again, unsuccessfully. With the infinite power of a sword, like the turbulent water that beats against boulders day and night, she swung for another strike. This time she succeeded, and the top of the boulder flew off from the force of her blow. The girl once again shouted, "Lin Shenliu!" putting all her strength and determination into it, and launched another powerful strike at her opponent. The guy, impressed by her skill and unwavering spirit, loudly announced Linbo's unconditional victory. The teacher had noticed that Lin had found her sword-wielding style different from Lin Li's, but it wasn't enough yet. While the student, gathering all her concentration and courage, was about to deliver a decisive blow to the secretary of the student council, she, showing incredible stamina and willpower, was able to rise to her feet despite the blows she had received earlier. Not only did her opponent resist the previous strike, but she was also able to prevent Linbo from landing the winning blow by counterattacking. Linbo flew off almost to the edge of the arena, frustrated by the opportunity for a victory strike missed due to inattention. During the flight, she had calculated that a quick landing would allow her to gain the speed she needed, but time was short. Immediately after the strike, the opponent, without wasting a second, swiftly sprinted around and forcefully threw her deadly weapon. The halberd whistled into the arena, dangerously close to Linbo, chipping off a piece of brick with its sharp edges. Following the halberd, as if out of nowhere, its owner appeared, and using the inertia of her swift movement, she once again threw Linbo away with a powerful and precise leg kick. Covered in abrasions and battered, Linbo was able to stand on her feet and, spitting blood, stared confidently at her opponent. The secretary gave her another chance, gesturing for her to approach, and smiled. Gathering her strength, Linbo lunged at her opponent, swinging her sword, but was once again disappointed. Xiaojikyu, showing lightning-fast reaction and precision, chipped away the brick between them at the last moment. Once at a dangerously close distance, she confidently declared that she could completely see through Linbo's sword technique. The secretary explained that without enough energy, Linbo would not be able to unleash the sword's potential. And taking her face, she added that the battlefield, unlike the dojo, was the place where life and death were decided. Xiaojikyu's victory led the teacher to think that in the arena, one should consider the environment and fight according to the principles of life and death, which was the main difference between the dojo and the battlefield. Standing over the defeated girl, Xiaojikyu offered her surrender or death, leaving her with only two choices: